Meeting of November 16, 2016. The first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, that will be led by Chief Diamond.
Will the audience please rise? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Move to communications. City Manager.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
City Attorney.
Nothing from the City Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Brian?
Just real quick, I just want to put a thanks out to everyone that participated in our tree planting 2 weekends ago. Thanks to the city manager, mayor, and council for their support. We had roughly about 170 volunteers show up, and we're able to get all the trees planted. So thank you.
Thank you. Joe Piper?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Before I go to Jim, thank you very much for the continued financial records each month. It's refreshing to have those each month on time. Appreciate it, Bill, and congratulations too on your new appointment. Jim Wrighty?
Substituting for Wendell tonight, and he had nothing. Thank you.
Chief McElreath?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
And Chief Diamond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to remind you that this Friday is the 15th anniversary of the death of Officer Ron Wood. And so if you could keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers on Friday, I would appreciate it, and all officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Council? Councilmember McConaughey?
Nothing this week. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton?
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank all the residents who came out and helped on the tree planting party. And I think our mayor did a fantastic job cooking breakfast along with the city manager and Brian Clegg, our parks director, and Kevin, our events director. So it turned out to be a very successful event. And I want to thank the fire department for inviting us out to their firefighters banquet. That was an enjoyable opportunity to meet with our firefighters and watch them receive the awards that they so well deserve. Thank you.
Councilmember Haga?
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yeah, I want to take a moment just to embarrass myself and apologize publicly. I had committed, this is one of those things you do every once in a while, but I had publicly committed to Councilmember Burton that I would attend the tree planting. And come Saturday morning, it's the furthest thing from my mind. I woke up, because I was up till the wee hours of the morning, and I woke up about noon, literally realizing, oh my gosh, I missed it. Anyway, every once in a while that just happens, and I really apologize. I just wanted to do that. And thanks again to the staff for supporting us in that, and the community for supporting it. What a great event. Just awesome. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you, Mayor. What Councilmember Nichols said, except I didn't have a good excuse, I just completely forgot. So it was on the calendar like a month early, and a month goes by, and it just, sorry about that. But I'm glad it was a successful event anyway. And I wanted to also say thank you to the all of the individuals who have applied for the vacant council position. I was shocked there was so much interest in it, so I think that's great. And I hope that for the, 10 or so that will not be chosen, and the one that will, but I hope for the 10 or so that aren't chosen that your engagement with the city does not end, and that you volunteer for maybe one of the openings on the planning commission or the other committees that we have in the city. Lots of ways to get engaged in the city, and so please don't think that the council is the only one, because this is by far not the only one. So I'll put that out there. Thank you.
I'd just like to state that fun time cooking breakfast that morning, and it always amazes me, the volunteers that show up from West Jordan. We would be nothing without the volunteers. And thanks to them very much, and our staff for helping us put that together. We'll move now to the consent items. I've had no one ask me to pull anything, so a motion would be in order.
Mayor, I don't have my agenda open in front of me, but I'd like to pull the one for updating the wiring for the audio.
Okay.
I believe that's a business item.
Yeah,
That's business time? Well, never mind then, thank you. See, I told you to have open in front of me.
Councilmember Nichols,
Move to approve the consent calendar.
second. A motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion to the motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Haga,
Yeah.
and Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Public hearing item 5A, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-49 vacating the turnaround easement on lot 104 of the Gardens of Mountain View subdivision, phase 1. David?
Yes, Mayor, Council, the vacation of this turnaround easement on lot 104 is something that the turnaround is no longer needed because the road has been built to accommodate the needs of the fire department. If there are any other questions, staff is here for any technical details.
Any questions for council before we open the public hearing? Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one clarifying question really quick. If and when this turnaround easement is vacated, that lot then becomes buildable? Is that
Correct.
what happens? Yeah, that's what I figured. Thank you.
I'll now open the public hearing for item 5A. Anyone in the public wishing to speak on this item, now would be your chance. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, item 5A, and return to the council for discussion and or motion. Councilmember Burton.
I'm very familiar with this piece of property. It's actually within my district, and with that other road going through there, I don't see any need for that turnabout either. I think it's a good time to go ahead and let that road continue on through and get rid of the turnabout and let that piece of property be built upon. So with that, I moved to approve ordinance 16-49.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Burton and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob,
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Councilmember Haga,
Yes.
and Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 6-0.
Public hearing item 5B, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-50, amending the 2009 West Jordan Municipal Code, Title 12 and 13 regarding planned center gateway signs, citywide applicability, Foursquare Properties Incorporated. Dan Milich. David Oka.
Yes. The applicant has come requesting consideration for sign package that will go in out at Jordan Landing. Staff, Scott's here to address you, plus the applicant has a brief presentation.
Mayor and Council, this amendment will add a new type of sign to our city code. And the impetus as to why the applicant has asked for this new type of sign is the redevelopment of the entertainment village at Jordan Landing. You can see on the slide here the existing layout of the entertainment village. They've already gone through and received a preliminary site plan from the Planning Commission on the proposed changes. The red, as you can see, is the existing building footprints, with the black, the proposed new buildings. And this slide clarifies that a little bit. So these planned center gateway signs would be located in all of the areas, the 4 areas highlighted in yellow. You've got a rendering up in the top of the screen that shows you approximately what they will look like. And the purpose and intent of this type of sign is to enhance these campus-type developments in the city. So, as you'll see here in the next few slides, this not only would apply to Jordan Landing, but any campus-type development in our professional office and commercial zones that have at least 15 acres. There's some other conditions and restrictions that we'll hit briefly. Here's just an enlarged picture of what they're proposing in Jordan Landing. This has gone to the Planning Commission. They forwarded to you a positive recommendation. They did have some minor adjustments, which we need the council to address tonight, and I'll go over those briefly. You see the different sign standards. The addition that the Planning Commission has asked the council to consider is that these types of signs be approved as part of a sign plan, which Jordan Landing has. That sign plan basically is when a large development comes in, we get a look at all of the different signs that they propose in the development, and we can look at it in the full context. And so that's why the Planning Commission recommended that change. As I mentioned, we try to weave any additions to the code into the existing framework that we have. And so the proposal is to work it into the code where it would impact these various parts of the city, subject to the criteria, of course, which you see here on this slide right here. Essentially, the change that the Planning Commission recommended was that instead of these types of signs being reviewed administratively by planning staff, they're asking that these types of signs be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So instead of an administrative conditional use permit, the full conditional use permit process would be required. And in addition to that, again, any changes or code listings that the state zoning administrator, they'd like to have that swapped out to the Planning Commission. And that would change all the administrative conditional uses to full conditional uses. In other words, meaning it would have to go to the Planning Commission for review and approval. So with that, the planning staff does support this proposed sign by the applicant. I feel that it'll be an enhancement, not only to Jordan Landing, but potentially to other developments that we have in the city, a good placemaking type of signage. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Burton.
If that has to go back to the Planning Commission, does that mean it will also come back to the council?
Just Planning Commission.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Scott. Really quickly, is there a difference in cost to an applicant of an administrative conditional use permit as opposed to a conditional use permit that would go to the Planning Commission?
Administrative conditional use costs $350. The full conditional use permit costs, I believe, about $800.
Okay. I have the fee schedule here. I just didn't make it all the way through it. So, okay, appreciate that. Thanks. Oh, and one other question: are these signs, without finding the exact spot on the staff report, are they only allowed to span a private drive or
Correct.
Not a public street?
Right. Nothing public. These are all private drives, private plaza areas, as depicted in that slide. So, yeah, no public right of way.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing that would make me think otherwise was the maps with all the areas. I was thinking there's a lot of public streets in that area. So, Just checking. Thank you.
Thanks. Dan?
Mayor and council members, staff and public here this evening, my name is Dan Milich. I'm the Director of Development for Foursquare Properties, offices at 7533 South Centerview Court here in town. At our September 6th Planning Commission hearing, we received unanimous approval for our site development plan. We were proposing extensive redevelopment of the entertainment village at that hearing. The entertainment village portion of Jordan Landing was the first part of Jordan Landing that was developed, starting in 1998, being completed in 1999. Staff indicated at that hearing that this signage that we were looking at, the gateway signage, was attractive and agreed that there was a need for this type of sign to announce a sense of arrival to help steer the public to the entry points of this newly configured entertainment village area. Staff stated, however, there was no sign type in the current code that would allow that sign to be proposed as part of our site development approval. Staff and the commission directed us at that hearing to bring back a zone text amendment to define and allow this type of signage within West Jordan. On the 18th of October, Planning Commission unanimously approved the zone text amendment, and we're here this evening before you with the same request. We worked closely with staff over the last few months to come up with zoning text language that defines and addresses the ability to propose this type of gateway signage. At this time, I'd like to show you all a quick video, professional video we produced. Mainly it's a marketing video for Jordan Landing, but it does illustrate the gateway entry signage quite well, and I think it also illustrates pretty well why we feel they're necessary to help direct public into this new entertainment village redevelopment area. Thank you, everyone, for indulging the video, but we feel it was very well done. We'd actually like to allow the city to utilize it if you would like. Told Scott earlier to keep a copy of it, which he did. Put it on your website or what have you, but really that's the close of my presentation. I respectfully request that you guys support the planning commission directive on this to approve the zoning text amendment. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions from council? Councilmember Haga.
Just as a comment on that video, impressive. Everyone's always been impressed with Jordan Landing. This, I think, you're taking it up even higher, so very impressive things.
Thank you, Councilman.
Is this really the last thing that you've got to complete before the construction will actually get underway?
Well, procedurally, Mayor, we have to go through our final site plan approval for the Entertainment Village redevelopment area. We got preliminary plan approval through Planning Commission. We're going to phase the improvements. The first two buildings that are adjacent to the front of the Cinemark Theater are going to be the first two that are redone. We also have to redevelop a stormwater detention field that will be under new proposed buildings, so that stormwater detention field has to be replicated a little bit farther to the north. So those type of infrastructure things have to happen before we can really push forward and get going. But we want to be underway hopefully in the spring.
Good. Thank you. It is impressive. Thanks.
Thank you.
Looks like you're good. I will now open the public hearing for item 5B. Anyone from the public wishing to address us on this item, now would be the opportunity. I will close the public hearing for item 5B and return to the council. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. This is probably a question for staff. There was a comment during the Planning Commission hearing about this regarding concerns about light and the potential of making a requirement that these be directional signs to make sure the light's able to be focused in the direction we want. I didn't see anything in here that seemed to include that. Am I missing something, or is that not included?
No, it's already included in the code where there's a requirement that all lighting is to be shielded with cutoff lights, and in addition to that, there's also a requirement that does not allow greater than 1 candle foot lighting at the property lines. Buried in the middle of Jordan Landing, that's not going to be an issue. As we look elsewhere across the city, if other developments decide to adopt and use this type of signage, then they would have to comply with that lighting requirement.
Okay. Thank you. In the comments that had been brought up, and the suggestion was made that legal could add some of that verbiage to this or address something else to address the issue citywide, but if
right.
That's already there. That
we've looked over it. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
I am questioning if we want to change that from staff to the Planning Commission to approve the signs and add an extra fee on whomever is trying to get the signs. Is that something that we want to do, or do we want to leave it the way it is?
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you. I would suggest that, yes, that is something that we want to do. Similar site plans are reviewed by the Planning Commission, require their buy-off. Something like this, I think, would be appropriate to have the Planning Commission review and approve rather than staff. So I would be in support of having the changes provided by the Planning Commission. I would be opposed to this without that change.
Councilmember Nichols.
I have one question and perhaps a motion to follow up. I didn't see anybody reaching forward with other questions. Everybody's okay with that. Scott, you could probably do it just with a nod maybe, but just to confirm, the ordinance as proposed includes the recommended changes of the Planning Commission?
No, it does not.
It does not. So we have to specify those two changes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion would be in order.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 16-50 with the changes recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Mayor Ralph.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Public hearing item 5C, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-51, approving a rezone of 3.1 acres from R1 10A PD, single-family residential 10,000 square foot lots, planned development, zone to R18C, single-family residential 8,000 square foot lots, zone for Westwoods rezone, located at approximately 7904 through 7930 South, 2700 West. Growth Aid LLC, Adam Nash applicant. David?
Yes. Nanette Larson will go ahead and address this issue. There's been some changes and things that council should know.
So the application is for the property on the corner of 2700 West and 7950 South and is presently zoned R110A PD. The applicant is asking to rezone these 3 parcels to R18C zoning district is the application. When this application went to Planning Commission made a positive recommendation to City Council to approve the R18 zoning district, but with E-sized homes. With the concept plan that's subject to change once it goes through subdivision review, the applicant determined that an E-sized home may not be able to fit on 1 or 2 of the lots that he's proposing. So because the E-sized homes initially won't be able to fit on these 2 lots, the applicant is looking instead to have City Council review the initial application for the rezone as R18C sized homes. Planning staff is recommending that City Council approve the rezone as an R18C as it meets the intent of the general plan, and the density of an R18C isn't anticipating, staff isn't anticipating that it will negatively impact the surrounding properties. If you have any questions for the applicant, he's available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, Nanette, a question for you just real quick. On this one, if you can go back to that concept drawing just real quick. This is an R18 proposal and currently zoned R110. I just looked at the zoning map and the area to the west there, that's shown the cul-de-sac next door here, is shown as an R110 as well. However, these lots all look much bigger than those lots, at least on this concept drawing. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. The surrounding properties to the south and to the west of the subject site is zoned R110A PD. Because it's a planned development, it's Woods Cove subdivision, they were able to have smaller lot sizes as long as they were providing open space that it averaged out to be 10,000 square feet per lot. So they were providing open space to the south here, and then further to the west there was more open space in that area.
Okay, so it was developed more as a performance-based zone than a typical Euclidean zone?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nanette. Is there any questions from the applicant at this point? Councilmember Burton.
I have a question for the applicant, if I may.
Good evening. I'm Adam Nash. I'm the applicant. I live opposite 4376 South 7th East in Murray.
Well, welcome to West Jordan.
Thank you.
So as I was looking over the notes from the Planning Commission, they mentioned E, and I can see the concern you have doing E, particularly on one lot or possibly two lots. Would you be willing to go with a D and then E on the other lots? If we zoned it for D, you could do E on all except for one or two lots?
Yes.
You'd be agreeable to that? Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions from the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now open the public hearing for item 5C. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now is the time. I will now close the public hearing for item 5C. Public hearing item 5C. Return to the council.
Mayor, may I interrupt just for a quick request of the council? If you are going to approve this with some portion of those lots designated D and E, unless we have clarification from the applicant as to what he's willing to accept as E lots, if there's any way to designate that in the motion so we don't have a debate later about what it is that was agreed to tonight, that would really help.
Councilmember Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you're suggesting is if we zone this for C lots and he agrees to do E on all but two lots, we need to put that in the motion somehow.
If we know at this point what the lots are numbered, if we can designate which two are going to be the E lots, that would really help so that down the road, if there's a complaint about, well, that's not the lot in question, we would lock down any kind of future debate about that.
Well, because that's a conceptual plan, can I just state that
two
and he have his choice?
That would work.
Thank you. Well, if there's nothing else, Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Motion would be in order. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you. So based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the City Council approve and establish the rezone of property located at 7904, 7906, and 7930 South, 2200 West from R110A PD single-family residential 1,000 square foot lots with A-size homes, planned development to R18D single-family residential 8,000 square foot lots with D-size homes, with the exception of two homes. Okay. With the homes being E-size, with the exception of two that may be D in compliance with the E, and the two lots of the developer's choice that may be the D homes. I hope that wasn't too awkward.
I have a motion by Councilmember Burton.
I'll second for discussion.
I have a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. While I can support the concept, I think this is a really, really messy and problematic way to do this, especially if it's a concept plan. The number of lots could change, and then the question, okay, well, was it really intended based? I just think it's messy. I'd like to find a cleaner way to accomplish something similar. Also, keeping in mind that even though one home's been built, something else can be built there decades down the road, and they'll revert back to whatever the zoning is. So I'd like to see something clean and simple that simply stands on its own on the future land, or on the land use map. So I would be opposed to this motion.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree in principle with what Councilmember McConaughey just said. I agree with the direction you're going. However, it seems to me that we are always, as a council, trying to squeeze the freaking biggest houses we possibly can on whatever postage stamp somebody wants to develop. And really, there are people that only need a 2,000 square foot house. There are, and that's okay. And they don't necessarily want to buy a 30-year-old house to get the 2,000 square foot house. So, or a townhouse. I guess those are the only two options with the way we've been heading over the last year or so. So with that in mind, I would like to offer a substitute motion to approve the rezone request. My motion is right here. Approve the rezone request from the R110A to R18D.
I have a motion by a substitute motion by Councilmember Jacob.
I would accept that substitute, but keep in mind that.
You got a second.
You have a second.
I would second that substitute.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob and a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I'm going to be. I think I'm going to be in opposition to this one as well. The more I think about it, the more this seems like spot zoning, which is contrary to our general plan. Although with the planned community next door, it kind of fits in, but I'm not quite 100% there, so I'm going to be in opposition at this point. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo Councilmember McConaughey's statement, but for the exact same reason. I'm going to use those homes next door. That's probably the only reason I would support it. Because of the zoning is contrary, if it's R110 against R18, I'd be against it. But because the way that the plan development came about, you've got the smaller lots with the smaller homes right adjacent, I think it's congruent, it's okay. So I'd be supportive of the motion.
Let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe.
No.
Councilmember Haga.
No.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
No.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Vote fails 3-3.
Councilmember McConaughey.
I move to table this till our next council meeting.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give some public explanation why we would do this. The reason we do this is obviously we're missing a seventh member. Next meeting we'll have this resolved. We can either definitive yes or no. So I obviously going to support this motion.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
And Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Public hearing item 5D, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-52, approving a preliminary development plan for Orchard Heights subdivision located at 6553 West, 7800 South in the LSFR WSPA zoning district. Peterson Development Company, Justin Peterson, applicant. David Oka.
Yes. Larry Gardner will address this issue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Council is very familiar with the Highlands development, which encompasses a large 400-acre, several parcels of property on the west side of the city. It's a mixed-use development with single-family, multifamily, and commercial elements to it. Peterson Development purchased this 40-acre piece of property a couple of years ago and amended the Highlands master plan to include that in there. It's on the corner 6700 west and 7800 south. It runs to the wash right here. The Lone development is directly to the west, and then the rest of the Highlands continues on to the west. This site is right across the street from Serengeti Springs Apartments, and this piece of property that the Jordan School District recently sold for a single-family house in development. And Peterson Homes has proposed Orchard Heights on this site, which will be 30 acres of it will be large lot, large home, and 10 acres of it will be, the 10 acres to the north will be what Justin Peterson referred to at the Planning Commission meeting as more of an empty nester product, a smaller lot, a smaller home product. Symphony Homes has, this will be their project, the 30 acres, and they are here to talk about that. And I'd ask the mayor and council, after I'm done, listen to their presentation. They are excited to, they haven't done anything in West Jordan before, and they're excited to be building here. The total acreage of the products is just a little bit under 40 acres. The density, and of course, as the council is aware, the Highlands is a performance zone, so there's density buy-ups that can be added to the project to increase the density of development. So the density without any buy-ups would be 2 units per acre, and that would yield 79 homes over the 40-acre period, or piece of property, this whole thing being the project. The applicant has asked for a 61% increase in density according to the ordinance, and so that makes the density of the project a little over 3 units per acre. For a yield of 119 single-family homes. There's a little over 5 acres of open space, the majority of it being, of course, along the wash, the no-name wash that will connect to what has been done in Longview north and south, and then further down. So that would be a good connection to that. The applicant, they want to make Symphony Homes really builds an exclusive product and want to make this an exclusive area for their product, and so they didn't want roads necessarily connecting, but their roads meet all safety requirements anyway, but they are adding connection trails so people can walk through here, and they can also walk along the outside of the project. It will be done in 5 phases. The Symphony Homes portion will take these first 3 phases, and then this phase 4 and 5 will be done at a later time. The open space and amenities, I'll go over those quickly. The large area down towards the wash will be landscaped. There'll be active open spaces, put in their playground equipment, trails. As we've seen along the wash in the Highlands, there will be an open space to the north with playground equipment, pavilions, and that thing for the residents to use. Of course, the trail will be constructed by the developer that will connect from 6700 West to the trail that runs through the rest of the Highlands. The trail, and as I said, you can read what they'll be putting in, but they'll be landscaping this area, which is part of the buy-up that's contained in the development plan. Symphony Homes will be building a swimming pool at this location. And also, as I said, the 2 connecting trails, one connecting the smaller lot development to the larger lot, and then this, of course, this greenway and trail connecting the residential street to the trail. And as all other developments in the Highlands, they're making use of entry monuments into the development. There'll be entry monuments at all points, and then points of, where they go into the development. And then there will be a corner monument out here on 78 South and 6700 West. That'll be the first point as you're traveling from west to east that you will encounter the Highlands development. Along 7800 South and 6700 West, there'll be a landscape buffer that will be at least 8 feet wide, and it will be bermed. It will be landscaped with ample trees and other types of plants to make a really appealing streetscape in this area. And of course, there'll be streetscape walls along both 7800 South and 6700 West, matching the same type and color and material as in the rest of the Highlands development. And then along the wash down here and then around the playgrounds, there'll be, of course, this fencing that is become consistent throughout the Highlands. And so what the Petersons are really doing with these consistent themes with the same wall types, the same fencing types, the entry monuments, really giving the Highlands really is, a place that's identifiable in the city. And of course, the street lighting in the Highlands are much closer. They're 150 feet apart, and they're much shorter pedestrian scale rather than the taller lights. And another one of the buy-ups the applicant has chosen to use is enhanced windows and door treatments. And of course, and you see this a lot on better built homes. They really frame in the doors. They put side lights along the doors. They frame in the windows, so it's just not the windows stuck into the siding. So it really is a nice architectural feature. The applicant will be using those features on their homes. And they'll be using the approved building materials, which are durable materials. Of course, they're stucco, brick, and stone, composite board and shingles, and cement board and shingles, as well as there'll be four-sided architecture on all sides of the homes, as has been done in other places in the Highlands. So it really will be a nice addition to the Highlands. It will be the large home component of the Highlands. I believe that the Planning Commission and the City Council have been looking to come into the city. And so with that, staff, now you're only approving the development plan. Before the ordinance changed, the City Council used to ratify the Planning Commission's approval of the development plan, but now actually the City Council approves the development plan, and the Planning Commission does recommend approval of this development plan, and they also approved the subdivision of the Orchard Heights at the same meeting where they recommended approval for the development plan. The staff has found that it meets all the criteria for the buy-ups, the 61% they're asking for, and feels like this will be a good project to put in the city. I want to add one thing in my staff report on the very front page. Item number 4 was put there by mistake by me. That should be omitted. So if there's a motion for approval, if we could just make note of that needs to, you could just omit item number 4. Now, Mayor, with your consent, the representative from Symphony Homes is here. If you'd like to hear anything from them, or if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
We have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
For you. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Excellent presentation as always, Larry. Thank you. Question for you on the phasing plan. Yeah, phase 5 was the north end of this. And I know there are intersection improvements slated for 78th and 67th.
Yes.
There, how does that, normally when a development like this goes in, the developer does the street improvements on the streets there, right, as far as curb and gutter, sidewalk and things,
yeah,
where applicable. How does the intersection improvements that the city has planned for that corner phase into the timing here?
Timing-wise, I think that those improvements, I'm not Public Works or engineering, so I'm winging it here, but I know that it's slated in the 5-year plan. It may, I think Justin's here, he may know when those improvements will be going in. But phase 5 will be several years down the road. So the design will be, of course the developer will share the design, and the design will incorporate what the city needs as far as right-of-way and that. So it'll be much before that.
So theoretically, the city's improvements to that intersection will come before the developer gets to the phase 5.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was heading with that. And then on the other question I had was the south end of the property with that 4+ acres of open space.
Yes.
How much of that is landscaped, as in like green grass? I guess specify when we talk about grasses.
All of the portion that is north of the wash will be landscaped and active open area. So I would say probably 3/4 of that.
So everything north of the sidewalk that's shown here?
Yes. And everything that runs to the south to the church will be, or the church property will be what we lovingly call natural grasses.
Native grasses. Yes.
Grasses.
We love those.
Yes.
Thanks.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. In the sheets that go through the calculations for how that 61% buy-up was derived, it shows the plan shows installation of 2.12 acres of common active open space. Where can you call out that 2 acres?
Right here and here.
All right, so the thing that I want to be sensitive about is the buy-up requires that this be additional property for trails beyond that required per city standards along creeks and washes.
It is, because we only require 50 feet, and it's much wider. It's 100 and something feet wide. And so,
okay, so that the creek area is
yes.
not coming into play. It's just the extra space behind.
Yes. And they'll actually be dedicating that to the city, and the city has a mechanism in this area, which of course is the Highlands Assessment Area, to take care of the maintenance of this area. So.
And then you'd mentioned that that's going to be given over to the city, already improved?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It'll be dedicated to the city. The improvements will be dedicated also.
All right. Thank you.
I think that's it. Larry will allow the applicant to speak for a few moments.
Hi, my name is Bruce Robinson. I'm the owner of Symphony Homes. We have not had the pleasure of doing business with your city in the past. We hope that we can start. Our company has been building for 30 years. It took us 10 years to figure out that we could really only do one thing well. We were never going to be a builder that could do everything and be mediocre at it all. We could only do one thing well, and we focused on move-up housing. We build about 100 homes a year. Our average sales price is around $600 to $650. Usually homes start in the 400, and many of our homes reach up to $800,000 to $1 million. I don't think we'll hit that high in West Jordan. We've had a number of customers over the year build with us who have come out of your city, and they've never had a place with the kind of community that we build where they felt comfortable building, so they leave West Jordan and go to other areas. I think you've noticed that over the years. And we've looked at West Jordan for a long time, and we've been reluctant, honestly, to come out here feeling that the kind of community we need and the prices might be too expensive. But in working with the Petersons, we feel like there's a good chance that we can make this concept of these move-up homes work on this site, and we are committed to give it a good go and see if we can make it work. It does rely on 4 or 5 elements coming together, and it's a combination of individual houses that are really, really good. And the second is the blend of the community. I heard somebody say here that you're tired of big homes on small postage stamp size lots. This is probably counterintuitive to a lot of developers, but we have to design our communities not based on the price per square foot. We have to design them around aesthetics and around what works for a move-up buyer, and that means typically a wider lot. It means generally a wider home. It means communities with amenities and nice entrances. It means communities with careful connectivity so that we have some connectivity but somehow maintain some kind of exclusive element so people feel like their investment's protected. And there are more elements, I don't want to belabor it, but it's a lot of thought to make these work. And we've spent months on this plan trying to come up with something we think what we're proposing works and that we can make a go of it here and hopefully it'll succeed. We can keep a lot of your residents from going to neighboring communities and stay here and feel like they can move up and be in a great community. We've given you a packet with information. I don't want to take more time than you need. And we also presented more of a video presentation to your staff earlier. I think you have all that information. Do you have any questions for us?
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to mention that Councilman Jacob is your lot and house you were looking for. Second of all, on these smaller lots where the homes are smaller, I was reading in your packet that this is ideal for like an empty nester type thing. Are you planning to market this to that type of?
So the Petersons have asked us to build this product. It's a product that we build, but it's not a product we go out and try to find to develop. We'd only build it in an area where we're already building. For example, I've got a nice project we're just finishing in Layton with about 110 homes that has these kind of custom homes that we build with an element that is these smaller homes. But we don't, they use the word empty nester. I don't know if that's exactly the focus. I'd like to call it a lock and leave product, which I think is a product that where the landscaping is maintained, people can come in and live a really great home, but they can lock and leave and feel like the exterior will be maintained if they need to go for a month somewhere. I will say this, that generally people my age and a little older are generally the buyers, but not always.
I'm kind of excited about this product. I just, is the phasing that you, could you go back to the phasing that you showed? Is this going to be accurate? Because typically every developer wants to build the high density stuff first. This is kind of backwards from what we've been shown.
No, the two products would actually go in likely in tandem. They're just different communities, and that's why there's not a road connecting them. They're a different buyer and they're a different community, and there will be a trail that connects them, but the amenities in phases 1, 2, and 3 will not be shared with 4 and 5 other than the kind of the public areas. And our anticipation is those, for example, phase 4 and phase 1 would probably go in somewhat concurrent.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll now open the public hearing for item 5D. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be the chance. I'll close the public hearing for item 5D and return to the council for discussion or motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Seeing no discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion. Motion that we approve the sub-area preliminary development plan for Orchard Heights, subject to conditions 1 through 3, as listed in the staff report.
Second. A motion by Councilmember Jacob and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
And Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
We'll now move to item 6 on the agenda, move to citizens' comments. I have one signed up to speak tonight. We'll take that one first. Alexandra Ephraimov.
Mayor and Council, can we please pause for a moment? Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance. Whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faiths, we seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we are about to undertake. Thank you. I'd like us just for a little while to remember the police officer that was killed in his daily thing. It's really sad. 3 years on the force. He had his whole life ahead of him. So let's just remember. And his name was Officer Brother. Yeah. Anyway, if we could just please pause for a little while. Thank you. The legislature, I'm again asking you all to, the legislature's coming up, and I'm asking, we have to get a state, the legislature has to change the rule, and that is for our businesses in West Jordan. If the businesses have a parking lot, the police are not allowed to come and issue a citation. And on the public, and again, please, we have to change it. We have to let our businesses know that policemen can come into the parking lot should there be an incident and go ahead and issue a citation. It's not fair to businesses not to have the protection of the police. We have a big night tonight, and I have a poem here. I'm sure you may even know it. It's a hymn. It's called Harmony. And let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony. Good luck tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in citizen comments? This will be the last chance to speak this evening. You'll be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one, I will close the citizens' comments and move to business item 7A. Discussion and possible action regarding resolution 16-177, funding overhaul of council chambers audio system. Michael Alder.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to make this recommendation. What this will entail is overhauling this room here's audio and video system and capabilities. It will upgrade all of the mics. It will make notification of who wants to speak, and that all digitally, that you'll be able to through a touchpad from up there. The big advantage, where we've noticed over several meetings, the feedback that you catch from the mics and from the speakers, is this system is an intelligent system. For one feature, as if I'm speaking here, the speakers above me will mute, so that it has zone muting, so that you won't have it over who's speaking and which mic is being activated, which will give you a much better quality, clear communication as you go through. Other advantages, there's 2 cameras that will be installed, have the capability, if we wish, to stream the council audio and video all as one out through very different sources and record and archive that way. We'll have This system allows us to upgrade and be able to broadcast that if we need to, capability-wise through decoders and encoders out to various other buildings within the city through our network, and everything will be managed, able to be managed remotely and simply through touchpad system. It's a very upgrade necessary, I would recommend, considering most of the hardware and backbone in this room is when the building was originally constructed. And it takes us out of the analog era, so to say, and moves us into a digital, and allows input via for you, council and mayor up there on the dais, also to be able to plug in and to participate directly into our presentations if needs be. Any questions or more in depth?
Questions for Michael? Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so right now, I don't think they're that old, just so you know, because I remember when they actually put them in. So, so we're going analog then to digital. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct.
And when we have, go ahead.
Everything will be digital.
And what about hearing impaired people, folks like that? How are we going to accommodate those folks?
It has the capability to accommodate up that. It has the ability to future growth if needs be. It's a very rock solid system. There are several places that use this system.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I very much appreciate the move to go this direction. Sometimes when we've tried to have audio meetings in here and they have not worked as planned, it's felt on occasion that smoke signals or carrier pigeons may be more effective than what we currently have. So grateful to see us move in this direction. The question that I have is the motion recommended is to authorize the purchase order with this particular vendor. Has an RFP already been issued? Is there a reason that this would just be done direct purchase order?
They are the current vendor that is familiar with this whole system, what we have currently, and whatever small pieces of upgrades that have been done over the time, and they are on state contract and to go through, they're the most familiar with the inner workings, because they'll be redoing more or less the foundation work, the infrastructure that's basically in the ceilings, rewiring and all that.
Did we get a rough idea of what it would cost if we were to start over from scratch?
From scratch? No, I cannot.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burton.
As you may know, I am an electrician and I'm really excited about something like this. And I would like to be extremely involved. Then before we sign the contract with them, would I have an opportunity that I could look over the detail of the proposed work that's going to be happening?
Yes, I can arrange if needs be. We can even do some site visits of some different places they've offered that have it.
Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to Councilmember Burton, I'm kind of interested in some of the specifics. For example, it's talking about the 1080p screens. I'm wondering if we might want to look at 4K. If there's a significant price difference. Also, where it's talking about the HDMI, I'm wondering if Cat 6 might be something that we want to look into instead. So I'd be curious about the specifics as well. But if there's no other, looks like there's another comment, so I'll hold off on the motion.
I did have one more question. So there's been, in the last 3 years, some, out-of-town type communication with the council. Will this new system allow more, direct connection so we can, because there's been times we crucially needed a vote.
Yes, this will.
It will, thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. So if there is no other comment, let me see if I can find the language for the proposed motion. Move to adopt resolution 16-177.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Hagan. Discussion of the motion. Please vote.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Mayor Wolf.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
And Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 6-0.
Mayor? Just seeing as there is, this next item is probably going to take a while, can we for a 5-minute recess?
Yes, we have to have a 10-minute recess, so I'd ask you to
By all
make that
means,
motion
I will
so that
move
the
for a
computers
10.
can be set up for that.
I move for a 10-minute recess.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Jacob and a second by Councilmember Haga. Discussion of the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we're adjourned for 10 minutes. Not adjourned, excuse me, we're taking a break for 10 minutes. I don't want anyone talking to any of the applicants at this point.
know everyone by face and name. If someone's not here, we have to change slightly some of the documentation. So, nice to meet you. So, I got 4 of the 10. Where are the other 6? I'm trying to find this one. That's right. They fry us first so you can learn later. So remember that. I got some plugins. Actually think they just mentioned the ring. She was born first. Really? I thought so too. I'm a Swiss.
call the city council meeting back to order. I'm going to turn the time over to our city attorney to explain the process thus far, and then we'll move to the first round of interviews.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. May I first indicate that prior to this evening's hearings going forward, there were some processes that had to take place according to state law. One of them is that we had to give proper notice. Having done that, we also had to then confirm that people were qualified and then verify through that qualification those items that verify that the 10 individuals sitting before you this evening are qualified were done so by the clerk's staff. In each of their application package, you'll see at the bottom of their name, their application, the verification of a couple items. One is that they reside in District 4. I should indicate to you initially at the start of this process, which began back on October 20th when there was an advertising in the newspaper, there was 13 applicants. 2 of the individuals were identified later having submitted to be living in areas outside of District 4. Those 2 individuals acknowledged living, one in District 2 and the other one in District 4, and then voluntarily withdrew their names. A 3rd person voluntarily withdrew their name, although they lived in District 4, withdrew their name earlier this week, and as a result, we now have the following 10 individuals seated in front of you. At this point, that is all I wanted to, at this point, explain to the public. Unless you want further explanation of how we got to this point, I can do that, but I think at this point it's going to be interesting to turn the time back over to you folks.
Okay, so our initial interviews, we will start in alphabetical order, in reverse alphabetical order, by last name, and each candidate will have 3 minutes to address the council, approximately 60 seconds to introduce yourself, 60 seconds to state any relevant skills, talents, and prior experience, and approximately 60 seconds to explain anything else about why you are a qualified applicant. And then we will move to the city council after all applicants have addressed us for questions, and we will start on my left side, your right side, and each council member will ask a question, and all applicants will answer the exact same question so that it's fair. And we'll do it again in reverse alphabetical order by last name on this first round. So we'll move immediately into that since we have a long night even after the selection process is done in closed session. Marco Vanneman, you're up. 3 minutes.
My name is Marco Van Emen. I was initially born in Amsterdam, Holland, so I migrated here when I was young. My experience with councils, I served 6 years with the Utah High School Hockey Association and served in various committees. With the last one being the vice president of the Southern Utah Division of the Hockey. I've also served on a couple of the school committees in the elementary level when my children were going there. As I look around, I see all these applicants, and I really think, they're all qualified as much as I am. But there's one thing that I can commit to, and that is time and my devotion to this. And those are 2 things that I really, truly, strongly believe in as part of the Utah High School Hockey Association. There's a lot of time and energy just to work with the parents, the schools, all the high schools within the valley to get things organized and so forth. And thank you for your consideration and your time.
Thank you. Michael, Toronto.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Toronto. I live here in West Jordan. I've been here for about 1.5 years.
Previous to that, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and Rexburg, Idaho, and Sugar House, Salt Lake City. I am not Canadian, to answer your first question, despite my last name. And your second question, no, I am not as old as you think I am. Those are the two common questions I get no matter what. I have varied hobbies in athletics, outdoors, and being with my family, and the arts and music. Relevant skills that I feel I have for the council are effective conflict resolution, especially out in communities. I've served in positions where I've worked with a lot of community individuals and resolving issues that reside there. I'm a labor negotiator for the Utah Transit Authority, and in that position I've developed a unique ability to work with the opposite side as a partner to get past no into effective resolution, and strong organizational skills to manage projects to bring them to a timely end that is also within budget confines, and strong people and communication skills that have helped me to bridge gaps of diversity and bridge gaps of viewpoints that have helped me to build understanding and to complete somewhat difficult projects. For example, in Washington, D.C., working on a project dealing with transportation corridors for students walking from one closing school to another school. The previous time this happened, 2 students died as a result of gang activity. When the project was over, which I spearheaded, 0 students had died, and the school day opened with no incident. And that was bringing together several departments that did not work well together, and several departments that had a lot of turf wars and political conflict. We were able to get through that, having an outsider perspective, which I think I bring to the council, having not been here for very long, and having perspectives that comes from varied backgrounds and many geographical and also professional experiences. I feel I'm qualified in the fact that I meet, or will help the city meet, a lot of the goals that are in their strategic plan, mainly fiduciary responsibility and producing projects due to my background in financial analysis and data analytics. They'll help us choose the best projects for the best value. And another one is creating good and stable paying jobs for the residents here. I feel it's one thing that we could do better to help keep people here so they don't have to travel so far or go elsewhere for those experiences. Another one is my proactive and research background and mindset, which will help me to get past any emotional decisions and choose ones that are most effective for people based on true analytics and true objectives. And another one, I feel like I bring a realistic and pragmatic view for my age demographic, mainly affordable, stable, and ungentrified housing, equity pay and right-sizing wages, and also developing in a way that allows for ease of access to commercial resources and materials. Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua Robbins.
Ooh, that was close. That was really close. All right, thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Josh Robbins, and I'm a father and of 5 children. I'm married to my wife for 6 years. We moved to West Jordan within the last 2 years. I have an economics background from the University of Utah, and I'm currently working on my MBA with the Boise State University. And the reason that I came today and applied is because I feel from the beginning, or from early on, I want to be in politics. It comes from my dad. My dad's the type of individual who shovels all the neighbors' walks and cares about the city and is cleaning the graffiti off of the utility boxes and then putting the political signs on his front yard. And I have a little bit in that of that in me, but believe that I can do a little bit more. I want to have the weight of decision making on my shoulders. I feel like the background that I have has put me in a place where I can understand people. I have the willingness to read and learn, and then be able to make sound decisions when tough times require such. I currently work for CHG Healthcare. I'm not sure how many of you know or are familiar with that organization. We are currently in Cottonwood Heights. It's an organization that places doctors across the country. But we are currently on Fortune's top 100 best places to work for, and have been for the last 7 years. And it's the reason I actually joined was the first year that they got on that list. And what intrigued me was that they are focused on putting people first. And it's a very different way of running a lot of businesses that you can see, and it's very futuristic. And it focuses really on making sure that our people that do our work are happy, that they're engaged, and that they're taking the most bread home to their families. And that really piqued my interest. And so I've worked there for now 6 years. and understand how they have that culture, the problems that they've overcome, the ability to be able to change people and to help them. My role is a senior operations analyst, which means I get to deal with the problems with our executive teams and many of the executive leadership within all of the divisions that we have. I get to deal with their concerns and their problems and look at the operations and the ability and where we have gaps and see what we can do to close those gaps, and then also be able to help get people to work together. So I feel even though I might not have some political experience or been on any committees, I think my skills within my organization that I work at transfer very easily. And I'm not going to say that I am naive in understanding what you guys do. There's 100,000 people who are requesting you to be good, and hopefully I can be good too with you. Thanks.
Thank you. David Pine.
Mayor Rolfe and distinguished council members, let me just begin by thanking each of you for your dedicated and selfless service to the citizens of our great city. It's a real honor to be and a privilege to be able to stand before you and be considered for this important position on the city council. I'm a sixth generation Utah resident. I've lived in Utah for 6.5 years of my life. I've also served a mission for my church in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And because of my love for my country, I volunteered to serve our nation in uniform as a U.S. Army Combat Arms Officer, and had the privilege of serving on the U.S. Army headquarters staff and was working near the Pentagon when it was attacked on September 11, 2001. While serving this capacity, I represented the Army around the world, and I've also been a vice president of 2 veterans groups in our state. My wife Ashley and I have 7 kids, pretty big family. Some of my interests include spending time with family, serving in my church, as well as discussing politics, public policy, national security, and military history. I have a wide range of education experience. I received a bachelor's in political science from BYU, a master's from Georgetown, as well as a law degree. I have excellent oral and written communication skills, and I've been a licensed attorney for 2 decades. I've also had a long time interest in public service. Actually run for public office twice before, and I've served as county and state delegate, precinct chair, and senate district chair before. And for the past 7 years, I've had the privilege of serving as either chairman or vice chairman of the Utah Legislative Compensation Commission. And in this position, had the opportunity to work with members of the other party to forge a bipartisan consensus to make recommendations to our state legislature. I've also been very active in the community. I decided to become a candidate for this position because I love our city of West Jordan. I want to help make it a better place to live. And when I moved here, I got involved in community service right away and was appointed to serve on the General Plan Committee. Also served on the Board of Advisors for the Utah Military Academy and the Board of Directors for Rockwell Charter High School. If appointed to the council, I have a lot of focuses, but one in particular is to make sure we're fully funding our police and fire departments, who I believe are unsung heroes, who risk their lives to protect our citizens. It would be an honor to serve with you, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. David Pack.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, City Council. I'm grateful for your service and the potential opportunity of working together with you. What is best for West Jordan? That's my honest desire tonight, and if in your wisdom you feel that that's me, great. If someone else, well, that's great too, because West Jordan is the winner, and to me that's what's most important. I love West Jordan. I've owned businesses in West Jordan and other cities for 12 years, and for 20 years I've also been a college professor. The majority of this work is online on my own schedule, which offers maximum flexibility of being available for City Council duties during most days and times. I'm thankful for the trust you've already placed in me over many years with various appointments, including General Plan, Board of Adjustment, Western Stampede, Planning Commission, Design Review Committee, Economic Development, Transportation, and CDBG committees. In almost all these groups, I've been asked to serve as chair or vice chair by the people with whom I serve. The same with service on many other public boards. I didn't run or lobby or campaign to be chair or vice chair, and the only reason I mention this is because I feel if I can build and maintain quality relationships within vastly different organizations, earning the trust and support of city staff and volunteers and public and fellow board members, I believe that bringing everyone together is a key ingredient for council success and public trust. I feel I've already built great working relationships of trust with city staff and volunteers, and I believe if you ask them, they'd say I'm friendly and respectful and prepared and easy to work with. Also, I can hit the ground running knowing how things work and get things done by experience and efficiency, being familiar with city code. You've seen me go the extra mile on field trips and attending conferences to better my skills in the positions to which you've appointed me. Importantly, you know me individually and collectively. We've already served together on committees and interacted at public events. I feel it's extremely important to have someone who has served many years inside West Jordan with a working knowledge of West Jordan, as well as outside West Jordan for a broader perspective in both public and private sectors. Especially with a midterm appointment, stability with a shorter learning curve seems essential. So that's what I bring to the table. Grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Dwight Michelson?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and auxiliary leaders. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present myself and introduce myself to you this evening. I was born in Brazil, but raised right here in the city of West Jordan. Without dating myself too much, I attended the elementary school of Majestic, which at the time was the Monarchs, as in butterflies and not royalty. But I understand they've updated their mascots to something much more formidable now. Same is true with West Jordan Middle School. We were the Mighty Shamrocks. The Shamrocks, but I embellished it to the Mighty Shamrocks. I think they've also updated theirs to a little bit stronger mascot. I enjoy my life in West Jordan. As I said, I've been here for most of my life, and for many reasons. Not least of which is I believe that West Jordan is a city that exemplifies its once motto of the city of good neighbors. And I really believe that it is that. I wanted to come and talk to you about my experience in leadership, but I've reconsidered that, and I think there are many other more important factors than that, and two of those in particular are paramount. And number one is problem solving. I come from an industry where my daily tasks are solving people's problems. I, as an attorney, in particular in the nasty business of divorce law, I am charged with the task of helping people solve personal problems. In particular, I identify people's interests and help them maximize those interests in the final outcome of their situation. And I believe this is an important attribute because I recognize, in particular in the 4th District, there are competing interests in the city, in particular between residential and industrial zones. It looks like District 4 is where the maximum of the city's industry is. And anyone who lives downwind of the yogurt plant understands what competing interests are. I spent some time working at Kennecott Copper Mine, and I was acutely aware of their measures taken to be good neighbors in the face of these competing interests. Which leads me to the second important attribute. In my career, I've worked with a lot of individuals who have contemplated bankruptcy. And my goal with those individuals, first and foremost, was to keep them as far away from the bankruptcy court as possible. And in doing that, we would often go through their budgets and find ways that they could pare down or even eliminate some of their expenses. And those people, those individuals who would take those measures and do those things and have the discipline to do that, mostly would avoid the bankruptcy court. So I was very grateful of that experience. And that takes me back to the balancing of interests. I believe I have the requisite experience to look at the needs of the city, the needs of the residents, and balance competing interests. Additionally, I've lived in other cities and other states. I lived in the city of San Francisco for some time, and I lived in New Jersey where I went to law school and right across the river from Philadelphia. Oh, Oh, I didn't see the clock there. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jason Lorcher? Lorcher.
Greetings, Mayor Rolfe and City Council and fellow staff members. It's great to be here today. I'm Jason Lorcher. I've been a Utah native all my life, born and raised here. Grew up primarily in the West Valley City area. I have 16 years in with law enforcement experience with the Utah Department of Corrections. Currently married, I'm married to my wife and will be, no, this is not going to go, but I'm happily married and have 3 children who I'm very proud of, and basically what I wanted to do here is to throw my hat into this arena and to see where it goes. I'm looking to actually, if this doesn't work out, to volunteer with the city, continue my efforts there to improve our outstanding city. The relevant skills I possess actually involve, I'm a problem solver by trade. I help those that are in need of a pro-social life, help those in all backgrounds, either the lower socioeconomical or even the higher socioeconomical status that have made mistakes within society. And I work well with others. I give good direction and advice when I'm not nervous, like I am today, but which is me, and I'm okay with that. And I'm a good listener for others, and I'm good at maintaining balance with competing interests as well. Also, within my career at the Department of Corrections, I've also worked with outside resources to assist our community and partner with our community in other aspects of maintaining public safety and standards thereof. Also, I served as a community council member with the Granite School District, and I have great writing skills, and I have the integrity needed for this position, and I have the commitment and the time and to offer the city. And thank you.
Thank you. Corey Dozier?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I'd like to just start by telling you a little bit about myself. My name is Corey Dozier. I moved to West Jordan about 1.5 years ago. I live in our brand new home with my beautiful wife and 6, soon to be 7 children, which is scary. But even though I'm a short-time resident, I'm a long-time pseudo-employee. I started my career as an electrician. I hope to possibly be the only electrician on the council member, but Councilmember Burton dashed those hopes for me tonight. I actually started my career as an apprentice electrician working at the Cisco food plant. That was the very first job I've ever worked in Utah. And then later I came back to build the eBay data center. And with that experience and with the contractor that I was working for at the time, we moved right across the street to the Oracle data center, and I was the QA/QC manager there for that electrical contractor. That experience allowed me to get the position that I currently have with Oracle, which is chief engineer. And in fact, there is a point that I need to bring up tonight that has changed. As of today, I am now the facilities manager for Oracle. So I'm over the UCF data center as well as the Salt Lake City data center, which we have in North Salt Lake. I manage a team of 6 people. No matter what happens here tonight, the city of West Jordan is the winner because you have some amazing candidates with varied backgrounds and varied degrees. I would like to point out that I might be a slight outsider. when it comes to politics. I did spend a year on the HOA board in the home I used to live in Eagle Mountain, which I did receive a service award for that. I would like to point that out for the record. I don't have the education that some of the members do, but having said that, the people that I manage are all four-year degree people. They all have bachelor's degrees. And I think what that says about me moving up to a management position over those 6 people, it says something about my organizational skills. It says something about my management skills. It says something about conflict resolution. I'm very confident. I can be outspoken at times, and I may apologize to a few of you if I do get appointed to this position because I may step on some people's toes. I'm not necessarily an affiliate of any party. I listen to both sides. I take in everybody's opinion, and I try to make an unbiased judgment based on that. Having said all that, just to go back real quickly to the reason why I decided to apply for this position. Given my background, you guys may know the recent history of what's happened in West Jordan with the unnamed data center facility. I was extremely upset at what happened, not at West Jordan, but primarily at the Salt Lake County Mayor's office. Because I have a background in data center management, I know everything about efficiency. I know about how much water they use. That was fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Anderson.
Thank you, honorable council members and city staff. I'm glad to be here today. As you know, my name is Alan Anderson, and the late Larry Miller had a campaign that said, "You know this guy." And I think I've been involved in the city where you do know me. Currently, I am chair of the Sustainability Committee, but prior to that, I was a member of the Budget Committee. And prior to that, I had been asked by former city manager Rick Davis to sit as the citizens representative on the Executive Budget Committee. I've had experience in government as far as being elected to the Kearns Community Council, which I did for one term before I was hired at the Chamber of Commerce, and that created a conflict of interest, so I stepped down from that, and I ran the Chamber of Commerce in West Valley, Taylorsville, and Kearns for 15 years. I'm currently, back up, I also volunteered to serve on the CDBG committee with Salt Lake County, and I did that for 2 terms. I have built relationships because of my positions in many arenas, the state legislature, the Salt Lake County Council, various cities, West Valley, Taylorsville, Kearns, Mill Creek, South Jordan, West Jordan, of course, to name a few. I worked at the Chamber of Commerce for 15 years, and I was able to interface business owners with economic development managers to meet their needs, and you can kind of see some of that outcome right now. The thing I think that's important that the council needs, or that I can help with the council, is relationships. I have relationships with a lot of elected leaders. I have relationships in the community, and I've developed all of those relationships through the city. And at the Chamber, I've been able to influence good public policy with things such as Mountain View Corridor, redesigning ordinances. I sat on a committee to help Salt Lake County redo their ordinances for business licensing. I've had a background. I was elected to the Kearns Oker Park Fitness Center Board of Trustees, served there for 10 years. So I have a very good background in parks and recreation. I know the city's looking for a recreation center. As going back to the sustainability and the budget committee, I've reviewed the city's budget pretty much every year on an overview basis. I do that for a living. My job right now is I'm employed at a charter school in the southwest area of the county, and I oversee a $5.5 million budget. I have 65 employees that I oversee and handle their benefits. And currently, until we get an operations person hired, I'm also in charge of operations for an 87,000 square foot building. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Allen.
I'm excited excited to be here. First of all, you have most of my information in front of you in the form of a resume, in the form of a CV. I'm assuming you've all read that. And so I'm not so much going to highlight that as the things that perhaps I haven't been able to fit onto 4 pages. In the first place, my name is Holly Allen. That is on your page. It hasn't changed since then. And I was born in Provo, Utah. I was a BYU baby. From there, I have lived in several states because my father moved around a lot. He worked for the Forest Service. And so I have been able to see as a child sort of this process. My parents were very politically active, and I have participated with them in helping to facilitate various changes. And I saw this as a child, and even as a teenager, this involvement was very important to me. So to give you an example of some of the service projects that I did as a teen, I volunteered at the women's shelter. I volunteered at the homeless shelter. And then I went on to work for Parks and Rec. And then I went on, as I was going to BYU, to work for Provo Housing Authority. If you ever need a toilet changed here, I can rip it out and put a new one in. That could come in handy. But in that, what I've seen is the function from within the city, what these guys do, what these guys do. And I went from there into public service. I taught English for 13 years at very difficult high schools. Kearns High School. I mentioned Kearns over here. And in that time, I was able to see that I could make a huge difference if I did things like write federal grants, which I did as a first-year teacher and obtained one. I have been flown by request of these people to speak at in Washington, D.C. on grants reporting. I have managed grant finance. I have managed budgets. I have managed large projects. I currently work for Jordan School District as a psychometrician. I like to say that because no one knows what it is. I do data analytics. I do program evaluation. I am trained in my PhD to do program evaluation. And that's the main reason why I'm here, because I know how to get people together. I volunteered on various, on the youth council, I volunteered on the arts council, but I know how to get people together and say what is working, what is not, where do we want to go, how do we get there, and overcoming obstacles that stand in that way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll now start with Councilmember Jacob asking a question, and we will just go in the exact same order answering the question. You'll be allowed 1 minute to answer the question. Councilmember Jacob.
So just for clarification, Mayor, I'm going to ask one question. They're all going to answer the same one question.
So that it's fair for all candidates. We're not picking candidates.
Okay. I wasn't planning on that, so this is going to be change my question a little bit. So my question then for everyone, every year in January, the council kind of sequesters itself for 2 days and has what we call a strategic plan or strategic planning session. And during that time, or towards the end of that time, we hear from all the department heads, and everybody has their budget requests and the things that they want to do. And then it comes to the council, and we get to talk about what our priorities are. What do we want to see happen in the city? Where do we want to see money allocated? What kinds of priorities do we want to set? So my question for you is, hopefully having looked at the city government, city budget, having been a resident, if nothing else, what would your number one priority be as a strategic plan for the city, for the budget, however you want to answer that?
Yeah, we'll start here and go right down the line. I'll reverse the order. Next question.
So first of all, I do have children, and my biggest thing is open space. I see a lot of building going up, and we moved to West Jordan because there's a lot of open area, undeveloped area. And I'd really focus on that as well as police presence based off of what's kind of going on in the country right now. That's where I would focus my strategic planning with the budget, is that area as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two priority that I would bring to the table: education and traffic. Biggest one would be traffic. Living all the way out there in District 4, getting from there to the gym I go to in the morning can take upwards to 30 to 40 minutes. And on a non-traffic day, you're looking at 10 minutes. It seems like we have a lot of traffic and there's not a lot of new or developing traffic ideas. Maybe there's some that are there I haven't heard of yet that have been presented, or even different technology or safe transportation methods that can be used. That's where I'd like to see money invested, because we're going to be growing a heck of a lot more out in that area with industry and with people. And having worked in the transit industry, I know that's a big way to attract industry and people to your city, is effective and safe transportation. And currently that's something that I think we are lacking, especially in District 4.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to two things as well, so hopefully that's okay. The first one I think is to continue the discussion about ethics and have some sort of a policy that we can move forward with, communicate to the community. I'm a culture person, so I think the other part of that is the engagement of the city itself. I actually was kind of disconcerted that there were, when we see events that happen, much like the tree planting, that we only get 150 people to come out, and I think we can do more, and that's part of the putting people first and having a good message and using the tools that I've gained from CHG Healthcare and working with them, where we have a 95% engagement score based off of some data analysis that we do. I think we can try to do the same thing in the city and help there.
For me, I'm going to agree with one of the points that was already mentioned, that is public safety. I think that's a top priority. I believe that biggest need of the city is to make sure that public safety is fully funded, that we have enough police officers, that they're able to patrol and make their presence known, and make sure that we reduce response times for 911 calls that are crime related. Also, I believe that beautifying our city by improving our parks and maintaining our trees and greenery along the roads is an important priority. One that could help make our city more attractive, both for residential development and business development, which could then be used to help increase the tax base for our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had the good fortune of serving with council members Nichols, McConaughey, and Jacob on the general plan vision statement. After the general plan was published, we felt that there should be a general plan vision statement also to go along with the community strategic plan. So to answer Councilmember Jacob's question, what would the number one priority be? Well, the prime directive of West Jordan that we established is to provide our citizens with the opportunity to live and enjoy an exceptional quality of life. And the number one priority there that we came up with after doing focus groups with citizens of vastly different demographics is public safety, to echo what applicant Pine mentioned. Specifically, emphasize emergency services with rapid response times, maintain a positive police presence, promote community-oriented policing, neighborhood watch, etc., plan and build for pedestrian safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Pack and I have the same speechwriters, apparently. I was going to say that no matter what the issue is when we start planning for the future, I would have as an underlying principle the standard of the quality of life that I would want to see maintained and enhanced here in West Jordan. As I said, I've been here for the greater part of 40 plus years, and I've seen the growth and I've seen the development throughout the city. And the one thing that I want to maintain is a high quality of life for the residents, and not just the residents, but the businesses that would want to come here. And whether that's traffic planning and transportation, Parks and Rec, One thing in particular that I would hope to see develop throughout that strategic planning is preservation of open spaces. We've seen throughout the valley, but not just West Jordan, but throughout the valley, land being grabbed for development, and I think that there needs to be the balance between the development and progress, but still the maintenance of open spaces and that feeling of a country that we really enjoy here in West Jordan. Thank you.
What I would be looking at is actually our long-term sustainability financially. Looking towards the future and looking for capital investments to assist with the growth of the city, and also, communicating well with the legislature and working with them, and looking at ways we can protect the assets of the city, as well as reduction of any long-term or short-term costs associated with the city's operation, and looking at those strongly and closely and monitoring those. I think the citizens deserve that, and that accountability and that oversight, and also we want to look to the future for our future residents. Thanks.
Thank you.
Since January is coming up very quickly, I think I would probably be more asking questions and focusing on anything particularly that I wanted to do. The first question is going to be, what does West Jordan do better than any other city to attract high-paying, good businesses? I think that's important for the people that live in this city. So I would look at what we're doing. I have no idea. And I would look at maybe some other cities that are doing it really well and see what we can do to get up on par with those. Second thing is transportation. Again, living on the west side, driving down 90th, I cannot believe how quickly the light at Bangerter changes. About 5 cars get through on 90th before it turns red again. I don't quite understand that. So transportation is a big thing. Third, I would want to know what we're currently doing and what we can do better for efficiency measures for our existing buildings. I know just working in the data center industry, it's amazing what you can do and what you can save through VFDs, through outside air economizing for cooling, LED lighting. So those would be the 3 things I would focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. All of the things that have been mentioned as far as quality of life, parks and rec, public safety, open space, traffic and transportation, and sustainability all require money. There's only 2 ways a city can generate money, and that's either tax the residents or it's the businesses that pay taxes. So the number 1 issue, as I was out campaigning last year and attended the last 3 strategic planning meetings that you've had at the Mountain America corporate office, number 1 thing to me is economic development. And what are we doing to attract businesses into the community? I was an avid supporter of the Project Discus on Facebook, and I answered questions with Councilman Jacobs all over the place as far as water usage, as far as all the demands, the high-paying jobs, and that's something that we should be in charge of in West Jordan. So that is the number 1 issue.
You cannot say education without saying economics. And so I would like to mirror what Mr. Anderson has said about economic development. I have for 20 years been married to a corporate controller, and so economics is our life. And I know that schools are not funded unless businesses are built in the city. I know that parks are not funded unless we can attract not only the businesses that will bring the people, but that we can keep our own people coming to our businesses and getting people from outside of West Jordan coming to our businesses. We cannot do that unless we have a very strategic plan that outlines not only how to attract businesses. We did lose Facebook. That doesn't mean all is lost. We can still bring those in. But also to advertise and to gather in people from across both sides of the valley so that their money and their tax money is coming into us, which benefits everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Nichols will be asking the next question, and we will start with Holly this time and go so that it's more fair.
Thank you, Mayor. Just because I don't think we'll have a chance later, all I can say at this point is, wow. You've all made this extraordinarily difficult. And I honestly say that in listening to every person. I mean, there's a campaign next year. I strongly recommend every single one of you consider that. And it will be for this seat, regardless of whether or not you come out tonight as the appointed person. And anyway, I say that with sincerity. My question is very simple. I thought about putting a positive spin or a negative spin. I'm just going to put the negative on it. I want to know how we can improve. So this is my question. In what ways are we failing as a city?
I would say we are failing as a city in one word: communication. If our citizens are not aware that we're having tree planting, they will not come. If our citizens and other citizens across the valley are not aware of the types of businesses that we have here that they should be coming to, we will not gain anything economically. If we are not communicating effectively, I know McConaughey, my secretary, said he communicates very effectively. She knows every single time there's a meeting what had happened. That needs to happen in every district. Our citizens need to know what is going on. And there are a variety of ways to do that. We do that in the school district. We are doing it more effectively than we have ever done it before. But I think to set up a plan where communication is getting out and people are notified of what's going on and how they can be involved would be one of the biggest improvements we could make.
As I was campaigning last year in District 4 and met with residents, some of the things that came out as I met with them was the communication on the council. It was the communication in the city. It was where are the businesses. We have a lot of storefronts that are dark. What are we doing to attract those businesses in? I don't know that I would classify them as failings as much as I would probably classify them as shortcomings, things that we can do better on. But as I campaigned District 4 last year and met with residents, those were the points that they brought to me. And I think some of the council questions have been resolved through the election process. The other things, economic development, the dark storefronts, how do we fix those? Those are the things that I think are the shortcomings in the city that can be easily addressed. Thank you.
Tough question. As a resident, transportation absolutely is failing. I love light rail, but when you are commuting and you have to stop for that train, which halts your progress forward to wherever it is you're going, as for whatever it is, 30 seconds, it's frustrating. So transportation absolutely is a big issue. But as everybody also has said, economics. I mean, advertising the city as a friendly business city. A city with fairly inexpensive land, very good power resources. There's not a lot of power outages in West Jordan, which there are in other cities actually. Water and all that stuff. I think advertising us as a place you want to be, and with an intelligent base of people that live here that can work for you is essential. So, thank you.
Based upon what I've seen is I know that the city is looking at a dealership, and I think, we need to work with our state partners a little better than we do with the legislature and work out ways so where we can reduce the bureaucracy with our representatives, get things in place to where we do where it all comes back to is attracting the small businesses. I mean, like I said, with the automotive dealership that our city is interested in, pursuing, we need to find ways to streamline that and help work that through with our lawmakers from the Hill. And that's one direction that I would like to see us go, is looking at ways that we can partner up with our representatives and work through solutions with the state and our county, and communication with all three.
Thank you. As has been said, I don't think that there is an indication that the city is failing. I think if the city's goals are being met and the city is growing and people are in general aspects are prospering, I think that's success. I would echo, however, what Holly said, that no matter what the calculus is, communication is critical. And so just to piggyback on that, though, I would say that, as a city, I think it's critical to what we communicate and to whom. And with respect to the citizens and our business residents, I think it's important that we not only communicate the vital information, but also why they should care, why they should care to be involved, why they should care to be themselves, whether they're business residents or individual residents, why they should be engaged with the city to make it a better place for their families or their businesses or the growth thereof. Thank you.
Well, thank you. In my postdoctoral work in public policy, the number one priority we always had before us was to make sure the main thing is the main thing and that you're focusing on the main thing. So if there's a main thing that's not going well, focus on that. And this is in no way a reflection of Mr. Oka's great work. I'm grateful that we've designated a position for business development. But the main thing, looking at the strategic plan that seems to be failing or that could be better, is that we're still considered the bedroom community. Citizen Directive number 6 is I want to live in a place where commercial establishments are modern, convenient, always improving, and where good jobs are plentiful. So we talk about bringing business into West Jordan, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We also need to bring businesses into West Jordan that provide reliable and strong employment for our residents so that residents aren't having to travel outside of West Jordan. That would definitely decrease the transportation issue that has been mentioned that we're facing. So recruiting the businesses, a top priority of that is to rebrand the city's image so that West Jordan is awesome. Thank you.
To answer your question, I don't think the city of West Jordan is failing in any area. To paraphrase our president-elect, I'm not running to make West Jordan great again. We're already a great city. And I hope there are a lot of people that agree with that. That said, there have been some areas that we need improvement, and one of those is certainly traffic. A lot of the issues that have been mentioned, I agree with, I've experienced. A couple weeks ago, I attended a city council meeting, and there was discussion that we were going to cut off a whole lane out of 70th South for a whole year. I mean, that's not very acceptable from my standpoint. There's got to be a way around that to improve that and make it faster. And lastly, I think public perception is important, and trying to foster unity on the council and a spirit of working together is also very important. Thank you.
I think what I'll do is I'll stick more in my district. I think the gap that we have out there is, and I refer to where I live as the West Jordan, is I've got to go a long distance to be able to go find places to shop, or to be able to have our people, our children that are high school age, have to go a long distance to get jobs. And so if this year is spent learning and understanding how the city council and the city government works, I'd like to learn how to be able to bring some of that infrastructure to the district floor and prepare for a long-term idea of growth in that area. Thanks.
I'm going to go back to the transportation and traffic route. Having worked for UTA, this isn't a plug. It's a conflict of interest for me to represent them, and I'm not. But being in there, I'm often privy to communications from companies that are moving to Utah and looking to relocate. They all go to Draper. Why? Because there's a transit stop, because the flow of traffic there is good. If we're going to develop businesses, if we're going to develop commercial, if we're going to develop more homes, We need to stop being regressive in our planning and more proactive and progressive. I live out on 56 West and 78 South. They're now finally redoing that road. It's ridiculous. We've had 2 kids hit on that road in the last 2 years. I think that road should have been developed before all those developments go in and are going in now. It's going to go in after another development or 2 go in. The traffic's going to be horrendous and increase the time that it takes to travel. I think the council needs to hold the developers more responsible for building more effective and efficient homes, and for having those developers take a part in developing the city so that those traffic needs can be met.
So listening to everyone here, and with my professional background as an engineer and a regulatory specialist, I'm hearing a lot of smoking guns. And my biggest thing in my industry is communication. How effective is it? And as I look and I attended this meeting today, I noticed there wasn't a lot of attendance within the community. And I think really getting the word out and starting here and letting them voice their opinions, I think that's one of our weaknesses, is getting the information from these meetings out into the public and letting them know. And as I sit there watching, I can see some head bobs when they hit, yeah, there's traffic issues and this, and I can see you guys agreeing with certain things. But again, my standpoint is it one smoking gun, or you all have your own smoking guns that you want to deal with? And that's the really thing, is getting together, work together, and figure out which is the biggest fire. You know, because a lot of times you deal with one fire, well, you tend to put out another fire already. And that's where I think we need to really work on being united. Thank you.
Okay, this time we will start with David Peck and go this direction, and then come from Holly this direction. What experience do you have with multi-million-dollar budgets? David.
Thank you. I was blessed to serve on the board of directors of the Living Planet Aquarium. I started as their treasurer, then secretary, then vice chair, then chairman. I served on the executive, audit, fundraising, nominating, strategic plan, and compensation committees for that entity, which is now a world-class facility. I certainly don't take personal credit for facilitating all that, but thankfully I was able to, through the associations that I have and people that I was able to talk to, be able to bring other people on board who were the movers and the shakers, the philanthropists, the legislators. And during the years that I served, there was definite need of oversight. There was board attrition. There was internal strife among the management in the organization. And so I'd like to think that I was able to help with that. And certainly at every meeting and between meetings, we had to look over operations and grow in a smart fashion from a small building to a large building over many years. Thank you.
I don't have extensive experience managing multi-million-dollar budgets. I did work on the general plan committee for a few years, as I mentioned earlier, and we did some important work in trying to plan the building of the Mountain View corridor. In my profession, I've worked as kind of a contracts attorney or contracts manager for very large corporations. I had signing authority for contracts and agreements up to $10 million. And I was entrusted with that authority. So I guess that's the closest I can come to that. Thank you.
So with CHG Healthcare, my experience is, so we're over $100 million in revenue, and we have 5 divisions that make up the family. And my role is as operations analyst at the corporate level. I get to work with the executive teams to be able to ensure that we're meeting targets every year and controlling our budgets and watching our employment and making sure that we're making the right decisions when we need to and changing the processes that we need to at the right time. Make sure that we're agile enough to make the appropriate changes even mid-year. I've also been a part of implementing a IT strategy that we had a budget of $16 million. We took Salesforce across the whole organization. I got to be very involved in that and making sure that that was successful and on time.
I do not have experience managing multi-million-dollar budgets. I do have experience in doing cost analysis, 4 budgets. Like for UTA, I'm in charge of costing their collective bargaining agreement, which is tens of millions of dollars, up into the hundreds of millions sometimes. And when I was back in Pittsburgh going to school, we did a financial cost analysis for the Jakarta monorail. There was a student in our class who worked for that industry back in Indonesia, and that was something he was tasked with as an employee for that department, so we helped him produce that, and we are talking into the $2 or $3 billion. So not in the management, but in the costing and decision-making that goes into budgets and where to allocate money, and doing the analysis of where do we get the biggest bang for our buck. That's my experience.
I don't have experience with the multi-million-dollar budgets. I do have usually what we call the $1,000 plus budgets. With my background, I'm usually the representative, quality regulatory representative in budgets dealing with customers. The closest thing I got to millions would be my father's construction company. When I came out of school for business management, I helped work with him as he went to the LA area to do residential and commercial areas. So that's as far as that goes, but thank you.
Well, my experience in budgeting varies everything from smaller grants to unofficial work, if you're talking about in the multi-millions, where I do predictive analytics for my husband when he's working with a national home builder. And in that, what I do is I take the data that he has, the financial data, and I look at the trajectories based on what they have, and I help to stratify and group and see where the economic growth is happening, where it is not happening, so that they can make adjustments. And I've done that on a very unofficial basis, but it is a multi-million-dollar budget. As far as on smaller budgets with the school district, when I do program evaluation, we include finance in that. So if I go into a specific program and say, here's what you're spending, here's your personnel, here's where all of that money is going, are you getting everything that you need to from your money, or are there improvements that need to be made? I handle that as well, and so it's more of an indirect. Thank you.
I mentioned earlier that I manage personally a $5.5 million public budget at the charter school that I'm at. I'm responsible to submit the Money Management Council reports, the auditor reports. I visit with the CPAs and auditors annually, and I also present the results of that budget as we progress through the year to the school board. And so that is my experience with money on a multi-million-dollar budget.
This happens to be what I do almost every day, apart from being a manager. We actively manage in excess of 25 POs that total a little over $3 million. These POs range from fixed maintenance contracts to break-fix contracts that are just active POs that we call it when we need something fixed. Every 3 years we have to source these, so we have to go out to 3 different providers every 3 years, which requires them to fill out CDAs. We create custom RFPs. We create our own leveling sheets so that the contractors, when they provide us with their quotes, they've filled out exactly the same lines in every spot, so we can put those side by side and make sure that everybody's tackled everything in their quote. We know what we're actually buying. So it's something that I'm very skilled at. Thank you.
With my position as mid-level management in law enforcement with corrections, I attend budget meetings to where we manage personnel costs as far as overtime. We have 4 now, community correctional centers to where we have to manage the budget, the food costs, the janitorial, all those kinds of things, all the costs that are associated with human needs and staffing go along the lines of we look at equipment costs such as vehicles, what they cost, the reparations to firearms, those kinds of things. I mean, we run the gamut as far as all those types of costs that we incur as an agency within the county limits here. So it's for the entire county that we get together as a management team and manage the budget like that.
I don't have any personal experience with multi-million-dollar budgets, unless you count my contribution to the federal and state taxes and those big budgets, but I won't count that. I do, however, have two fundamental principles that I grasp very, very well. And if I'll use a bucket of candy as an analogy, I understand, number one, that if you have a bucket of candy and you give that candy out, you have to have at least as much candy coming into the bucket as goes out. Second principle, the people who donate or the people who contribute that candy to that bucket are very concerned about how that candy is distributed. And those two principles I have a firm grasp on. Thank you.
Okay, we will, Dwight, you can step right back up in just a moment. Councilmember Haga, we'll start with Dwight and go this direction this time, back in reverse order.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate it. Real quick, I am like Councilman Nichols. I am loud. I've read all your resume and all the paperwork. It's good to connect your face. I know a few of you, but not all of you. Majority of I don't know. But I'm very, very impressed. So West Jordan's fortunate. My question, and just to start with, if you're not familiar, you know, our form of government, we have a city manager. We have his staff and 400 plus, maybe more than that, employees. This council has a mayor that's a voting member of the council and the chairman of this council. So as you see yourself representing District 4 up here, what would be your role sitting up on this dais?
Well, as I said earlier, I'm happy to be a resident of West Jordan, the city of West Jordan, and I'm particularly pleased with where I live in District 4. I moved out here from a little more east of the city a few years ago for a very specific purpose, and that was because of, as I said earlier, the open spaces and what remains of them. And I see myself as, if you will, a representative of the people of District 4 to maintain, at least to some extent, the reason that people live here. And those people who move here, whether it be economic or personal family matters or whatever, they move here for a reason primarily. And I would hope to see that my role here would be to develop and progress this city in such a way that the people who move here maintain or develop those reasons that the people in District 4 come here to the city of West Jordan. Thank you.
As far as my representation while sitting up on the council there would be to, we would be looking at oversight, planning, looking at zoning and ordinances and gathering information and looking at those and evaluating those. You know, and this is such a greatly managed city anyways, and this is why I'm here standing before you today, because this is my second time being a resident and we're not leaving. And I just want to be a part of the future of our city and to finally give back and to look to the future and see what I can do to have my children my posterity live here as well, and see what we have in store as far as business. And you know, like I said, I think with what we have, it's great. It's a great city, and I want to see us, you know, push ourselves and go that much further.
So one of the things that I do well, I think naturally I'm a strong leader. To be a strong leader, though, you can't just look at what's in front of you. You have to look at the decision that you're going to make and what's going to happen about 3 steps down the line from that. So one of the things that I've learned in my time with Oracle and as a manager and as a chief engineer is you have to plan ahead. And I think that's what's gotten me to where I'm at with the company that I'm with. But that's what I do well. I think outside the box. I step back and I look at what the decisions we're making now could possibly have or how they could possibly have an impact down the road and how we might tweak what it is we're thinking about doing in order to maybe come full circle and maybe make ultimately the bigger picture better, if that makes sense.
I think I bring a unique perspective to your question, Councilman Haga. I ran last year for the District 4 seat. I walked every precinct. I shook residents' hands. I talked to them. And I recognize that that's what I'm doing if I'm fortunate enough to have that seat, is to represent those people. And as a council, our role would be to legislate the affairs of the city. We don't run them. That's why we hire a city manager. I am familiar working at the Chamber of Commerce on the differences between a city manager form of government, council manager form of government, and strong mayor form of government. I work with both between West Valley and Taylorsville specifically. But that, I think, is a unique perspective that of all the candidates that I can bring, is that I have walked District 4, I've talked to the residents, and I recognize that that's a key element of this form of government that we have.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe as of 1991, we have been a council manager form of government, which does leave the council as a legislative branch and does leave our city manager as basically kind of to make these comparisons to our national government, sort of like the president. And he makes those executive decisions. Now, what that means for me is my role is not to be in charge. My role is to give counsel. My role is to give advice. My role is to look at every single bit of data that comes before me, to analyze documents carefully like I do in my job, and then to pull the information together, to synthesize that information into counsel that is well-informed, that helps to make well-informed decisions. That means that if I give information and everyone disagrees, I don't get to throw a tantrum and say, but I want to be in charge. It means I am only helping. And I think that in representing the people in my district, that's what I'm here to do.
So when I thought about the question, I go back to what my wife asked me when I told her I decided to run for this, and she said, why? Why do you want to do this? And I'm sure everyone up on there has probably been asked the same question. Why do you do what you do? Me, I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking 5 to 10 years down the road. My kids are older, I should say, and they're ready to move, buy a house. What have I done in my life to help them make West Jordan better, make them want to live here? And that's something that I really believe strongly. And yeah, and I agree with all the other ones, you know, you are representative of the people, and that's very important. But all those people have kids, and that's where I really want to do is look at the bigger picture. That's what I really want to do. Thank you.
For me, I see my role on the council being data analytics. Someone likes to look at the data. I love data. That's what I do a lot in my job, putting it together, pushing it out to make better decisions. As you know, I work in the labor world, and that world is often very antiquated. And I'm bringing to that in my position a lot of data analytics to make choices that are best, that look into the future, and that have the most impact. The other role I see on the council is to represent my demographic. According to, what's the source, ASE, Demographic and Housing Estimates, my age group is the largest in the city, and it's growing. And they're growing out in District 4 because those are the homes that we can afford on the salaries that we make. And I think that's something that needs to be represented on the council. And also, as we talk about communication as a weakness, there's a certain way to communicate to that group that isn't being done, and that's what they are most receptive to. And by missing it, we are missing a large part of the population that could be involved, and that would be my role in the council.
So the vision that I have in my head of how the council works is it mimics the idea of the board of directors. And in that, it really ensures that the targets and the direction and the future planning to be able to grow to the goals that are provided to them by the owners it is met, but that they also try to remember to not be in the way of our good people and what they do every day, and to have faith in the city manager and all of his people to successfully run the business and to make sure that they're doing what they need and they have the resources to be successful. And that's would be our task, to ensure success. Thanks.
First, I want to add to my last answer. I do have some experience managing million-dollar budgets. That was on the Rockwell governing board of the Rockwell Charter High School. We worked hand in hand with the executive director, who was the principal, to make recommendations regarding multi-million-dollar decisions for funding for our school. And then, in response to your question, Councilman, I think the council manager system form of government has worked very well for us. It does give the most power to the members of the city council, which I appreciate, and it diffuses power, probably the most democratic and representative form of government. And we make the decisions, and then the county manager, as the chief administrative officer, administers our decisions and administers the city. And my role, I think, is just to champion the best interests of our constituents in the 4th District and do what I feel is best for them. Thank you.
Thank you. So what is my role as a council member? I believe it's to be proactive in creating the type of city residents want instead of only reactively addressing applications brought before the council. As a planning commissioner, we're somewhat more limited in that scope. It would be nice to be able to be more proactive. And I believe it would be important to focus on what citizens, staff, and council have already agreed upon and what I've worked on, the general plan, the strategic plan, the vision statement. I believe the role would be to inform residents and be informed by them in a continuous cycle of communication. To me, communication begets understanding, and understanding begets respect. So with open-minded listening and receiving different perspectives, I'd be able to make the most informed decision possible for the benefit of the residents of District 4. Thank you.
Councilmember Burton will be next, and we'll start as we did at first. Start on this end, Marco, and go that way. Last will be the reverse order.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, each of you, for applying for this position, even though only one person will win, I guess for lack of a better word. West Jordan wins simply because we have all of you here and all of you are helping our city. So thank you for what you do. My question was answered slightly by Mr. Pine, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and then you can follow up with the why. Which form of government do you think would serve West Jordan best? Thank you.
It's kind of an open-ended question. Well, honestly, I think what we have now works best. I mean, West Jordan is a great city to live in. We moved here. One reason was the affordable housing. Two, to be honest, it's Jordan Landing. I mean, we have everything you need there. So, honestly, I think what we have works. But again, I think we need to look at what is not working as good. What is not efficient? What is the smoking gun, to go back to what I talked earlier about? What is the smoking gun? What are the weaknesses in it? So, thank you.
My graduate school studies focused a lot on this, as it was one of my fields of study, which was city and local government. The research showed that a majority of cities are switching over to a council manager type role, mainly because they need more of a business perspective and not so much of a political perspective. This is huge out on the East Coast. That's where you see most of that growth happening in the council manager type relationship. It's because a lot of the decisions out there are being politically made, and that wasn't wise for the citizens. I feel that having a manager-council type relationship is great. I think having a mayor part of that is fine, as long as there is a city manager who brings that business perspective, who brings that accountability perspective, and is not politically motivated. I think that needs to be taken out of cities, because decisions need to be made based on realistics and analytics and on best practices.
All right, this might be the quickest answer. I have no idea. This really seems to work really well. West Jordan, I moved here on purpose, and it worked out really well for me so far. And I live right next to where the prison was going to end up. I'm in the corner house. It would be my house that we throw a baseball from to get to that property, and you guys protected me. So it seems to be working really well, so I'll stick with it.
As you know, West Jordan City is considered a large city. It's over 100,000, and so that's typically, large cities typically go with a mayor, council form of government. But that being said, I think there is an argument to go with a more centralized government under the mayor. However, as I mentioned before, I believe the council manager system is working best for us. It allows the people's representatives as city council members to better represent them and have more control over the decisions over their lives here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. I believe either form of government can work, but there are specific criteria that need to be in place to make either one work. In the council manager form, that allows qualified staff to do what they do best, what they've gone to school for, what their professional career is in, and they can focus on that. On the flip side, the strong mayor can work great if there's a qualified mayor with experience to internally manage a city. So really the onus would then fall toward the citizens when casting their vote to vet those who are running to ensure that they would be electing a mayor who would have the necessary experience to be able to run a city. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just echo those sentiments that have been stated before. I really believe that West Jordan has and historically had a very effective form of government, and it's evident in the growth and it's evident in the progress that this city has made over the last 40 years that I've been a presence here. Thank you.
I mean, I don't have any other thing to offer in the way of any differing opinion on how cities are operated with just the mayor and the council. I think the council management partnership seems to work well, and the citizens still have a voice, and they're able to voice their concerns and show up to the meetings and see what's going on and give their feedback there as well. So I think this is a good operation, and I'm pleased to be part of it and have it operate my city. So.
I have a little bit more experience coming from Eagle Mountain, and the way they structure their government there is similar to West Jordan. They have an appointed or hired city manager, and then they have an elected council with an elected mayor. It seems to work well the way that is designed, because the council and the mayor become the face of the city. They become the public persona. The city manager, although his job is just as, if not more powerful than the council and the mayor, it allows him to work a little bit more behind the scenes, a little bit out of the public eye, and sometimes that can be beneficial. And it did seem to be beneficial for Eagle Mountain. It seems to be beneficial for West Jordan. So, thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, I've got some opportunities to work with both form of government. It is, I think, noteworthy to state that the council manager form of government is no longer in state code. We've been grandfathered in, as any city that operates in Utah. They're grandfathered in. And there was a discussion several months ago, I can't remember where it was at, if it was Western Growth Coalition, but I believe that of the top 10 most populous cities in the state of Utah, there's only 3 that are a council manager form of government. But your question kind of infers, is this the right one, or is there a different one that's the right one? And again, that has to be done with what are we trying to accomplish, what's not working. In a strong mayor form of government, typically there's a chief administrative officer who is appointed that is like this chief operating officer of a city, and the mayor handles the chief executive branch, much like we do with the county mayor or Salt Lake City mayor. Thank you.
And this is where I diverge. I think it depends. I think that there are benefits in some instances. About 40% of the cities across the United States run under this type of a government, the council manager. It can work really well when you have great communication and when you have competence in both areas. And it can work very adversarially when you have differences of opinion that are so strong that it actually stagnates the government. And so those are the, there's the benefits, but there's also the costs of that type of government. But you'll run into that as well with the strong mayoral government, is you will see if it's a very competent mayor, you'll see great things get done, they'll be done efficiently, you won't have as much interference. You see this at a school district, we have very similar structure, and there are times when the people are not best served by the person who's serving as the CEO. And so I think it just depends on the type of communication and competency that exists within the system.
Paul, you can stay right there.
It's kind of a double-edged sword getting to go last. Just like many of you, questions have been asked, and you find yourself at the end, you feel like you're almost repeating the other answers and trying to wonder how to set yourself apart. We get that feeling quite a bit on council. A lot of us will be thinking similar questions, so don't feel bad when a number of your answers seem to run together. It seems like a lot of our votes do the same. That said, we also frequently disagree on the council. In fact, tonight we saw one instance where it was split straight down the middle. No two people ever agree on everything all of the time, so my question to you is going to be, what recent council decision have you disagreed with, and why?
Oh my goodness. I think, and this brings up a great deal of controversy, and it may make me unpopular, but I feel like it was a little inappropriate to have the division that we had with regards to some behavior that was not necessarily appropriate. And I think that I had wished to see the entire council and the mayor unified on an understanding of what is written within our law and what is ethical.
That's a tough question. One of the things about being on the council is the opportunity to disagree on matters of principle. My father always taught me that you have to stand for something or you stand for nothing. And so I can't think of a specific council vote that I disagreed with. It was either because I didn't have all the data, didn't read the background on it, was kind of surprised maybe that it voted a certain way. So I think it's just a critical element to be able to openly disagree and not take it personal. And I also, I guess the previous council, when they had disagreements where the decisions probably were more political than they were based on reason and fact.
I'm with Alan. I don't know of any particular decision you guys have made that I disagree with, but I will tell you that I disagreed with the approach taken to fight back against Salt Lake County when it came to Facebook. I do believe that if I was on the council and I was allowed to speak my mind publicly, maybe hold a press conference, maybe invite a lot of people over for dinner at my house, I have no idea, but I would have swung back very hard at them because they did present false facts. I don't know where they got those facts. I did actually talk to the Salt Lake County mayor personally and asked him where they got them, and he said they brought in a data center expert to one of their council meetings who counseled them that it was not going to create very many jobs and just wasn't going to be that great. Whatever. That was a lie. So I would have liked to see you guys come out of maybe swinging a little bit harder back at them and maybe fighting for some public opinion on that because I think that's what ended up drowning the project. So thank you.
To sort of piggyback on that, it's kind of disappointing to see how our city council, was portrayed in the media with the decision in regards to how the county council reacted, and I felt as though that that it would have been a good thing for our city to have Facebook here, and I was kind of disappointed to see that the county kind of overreacted, in my opinion, and it seemed like they muscled themselves into this situation and decided to take control of our city in that regard, and it was disappointing to see that kind of reversed. I thought we were looking good to see that come to fruition, so that was quite disappointing.
Councilman McConaughey, there's an old adage that says when someone says that's a great question, you can count on the question being better than the answer. Councilman McConaughey, that was a great question. I don't have any recent memories of decisions that I would have said that I wholeheartedly disagreed with. Not that I have a great memory bank of the decisions that this council makes, but by and large, as I follow the news to the extent that I do, I've been very pleased with the decisions coming out of here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I certainly want to address the issue since a direct question was posed. It feels like we're on a stage here. I love doing plays and musicals, and they usher you in 10 at a time in a room, and then you have to sing and dance. So this is actually easier than singing and dancing. You don't want to sing and dance, that's for sure. But the reason I mention that is with the decision to dismantle the Sugar Factory Playhouse, it would have been nice to have something in place at that same time to take its place. I was able to work with Councilmember Haga on the Olaf, the old library facility, and regardless of where you stand on dismantling Sugar Factory Playhouse, I'm a history buff. I love writing in journals. I'm a museum goer. And so I feel that the history of West Jordan is so steeped in tradition and history, it's really nice to preserve what we have, while at the same time understanding the other side. And this decision was split down the middle, so that's why I chose to respond to this issue. And it just would have been nice to have another facility when that one was decided to be ended. Thank you.
It was an excellent question. For me, I think it was the vote against. There's something I'm really passionate about, but the one that comes to mind, I think, is the vote against the line item $2 per house property tax increase that would have increased the beautification of our parks and road areas. For me, I'm a fiscal conservative. Tax increases are kind of a last resort for me. But I believe that in this instance, it might have been something that could have essentially paid for itself over time, in a sense, because I think it would have increased residential and business development in the city, made the city more attractive for other citizens to move here, as well as businesses. But absolutely, we need to be good stewards of the people's money, and as I mentioned, that would kind of be a last resort to raise taxes or fees. Thank you.
All right, so for my answer, I think the thing that, unfortunately, I don't know all of the ins and outs of what it takes to be able to make the changes sort of in the ethics policies. I just know as a citizen watching that with the recent history that we have, that it probably would have been really helpful to see something come a little bit faster. I'm not sure where it currently resides. I think if I remember correctly, I studied this week, reading all of our notes as we could, that there still is some pause on it. And as a constituent, it would really go a long way to have been able to see something happen fast and to say that this is what we're going to live by, this is the code that we're going to be in, this is what we're going to stand up for. And so if we could have maybe seen that happen a little bit quicker, I think that would have helped.
To state what was kind of stated before, there's not a decision that I necessarily agreed with, like with the Facebook data center. I didn't see in the news much of anything we were asking from them in the way of takeaways. I wish we would have seen more of that. I don't think there was a lot of hindsight in that perspective coming from any government groups that were in that deal that I thought of. You of course think you're right unless you're in the seat, and then you see more of the information which we didn't have privy to. But I think a lot of it is in how these decisions have been handled. Having lived back east in D.C. and Pittsburgh, where a lot of politics are controversial, where sometimes you find the scandals that are there, I didn't see the kind of behavior that I've seen portrayed in the news around this council. And that was a little shocking to me, having lived in such big populous cities where politics are huge, seeing that in such a smaller city. We are small in comparison to those cities, 100,000 compared to a couple million. And that was a little shocking to me.
So with my background in quality and regulatory, there's obviously not a lot of love that I receive at work. But, you know, as I go about, you learn to work with people. And the biggest issue that I have thought of was the Facebook. However, my wife would disagree, as probably someone with the traffic construction. But again, with not knowing the answers or what was presented, and we're only hearing half of the story, you probably made the right decision. I'm not sure. But again, whatever decision you make, you have to stand behind those decisions and make sure the people that stand behind you as well. And first of all, I got 25 seconds, so I'm going to use it up. As the interviewees, we really thank you for the time to let us present ourselves to you and this opportunity. It means a lot to us. And again, thank you for your time, and make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn a minute over to our city attorney, and I think I'll let you describe.
Well, before we go much further, may I get a motion to continue past 9 p.m.?
Oh, yes.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion, motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I would be remiss if I didn't at this point acknowledge and recognize that 2 members of your staff worked through the problems that presented to this voting process, and I would like to thank and recognize Duncan Murray and Michael Oliver for putting together this process that both addresses an openness and maintains some privacy at the same time. So with that explanation and appreciation, I would ask Duncan Murray to step forward and now explain just how that voting process will take place. You have 6 laptops in front of you. There'll be a projected vote up here, but Duncan can explain exactly how that voting process will proceed.
I would just like to add that the members of the clerk's office also provided a lot of assistance in the process. I'd like to recognize them as well, Melanie and Carol and Jamie. So this was a great interview process, and my job is to explain now the voting process. And really there's 3 parts that I want to explain. First of all is how do you cast your vote for this first round, and then secondly, how is that vote or votes going to be counted in this first round, and then thirdly, how is the voting going to function during the second and final rounds. So as to that first component, as to how you cast your vote, this is a secret ballot process, similar to what you probably did recently if you voted in the regular elections in a regular machine, other than that's a laptop in front of you that the IT department, Mike Oliver, IT director, prepared for you. But it is similar to your prior processes where you did a secret ballot, but it's a little quicker than paper. Hopefully that works for you. It's been thoroughly vetted and special software for this occasion. The method that you'll use is you'll notice that on your computer screen there will be a list of all 10 of the applicants in that same reverse alphabetical order by last name for this first round. And you will be able to use the internal mouse there on the bottom of your keyboard to be able to pick a candidate. And the very first area on the left of your screen will say pick a first choice candidate. So you'd be able to place the cursor on that line, and then underneath there's a blue box where you can cast that particular vote or make that particular choice. As soon as that happens, then you'll notice that instead of 10, there'll be 9, because that one you've already picked. Now you're looking at the remaining 9 in the middle of your screen. You'll at that point, be able to pick one of those candidates as your second choice by putting the cursor there, hitting the blue box underneath, and then finally the remaining 8, you'll be able to pick one of those, put the cursor on, pick the blue box underneath, and then once you've made those choices, you can double check and make sure that yes, that's your first choice, second choice, or third choice. And this part of the method I think is different than what you had last time, but I think it'll work well where you've got a variety of good solid applicants. Then you have the option, if all 3 of those you verify is what you indeed wanted to choose, then you can pick the green box in the lower left that says cast that ballot. If at any point you inadvertently hit the wrong box, then you can hit the red box, I think is in the lower right, and then you can start back over, and when you've got the votes the way you want, you can cast it. When all 6 members have cast their votes, then within 15 seconds that'll display up on the main screen that everybody can see, and then there'll be vote tallies there. So that's the first part, how you cast your vote. The second part then is how are your votes counted in this first round. This is a weighted voting system. We've got multiple rounds. We also have ranked or weighted voting. The way it works is whatever applicant that you picked for your first choice will be given 1 weighted vote, 1.0 weighted vote. Whoever you pick for your second choice will get 0.6 of a weighted vote. And whoever you pick for your third choice will be given 0.4 weighted votes. So in effect, you're each casting 2 weighted votes, 12 weighted votes altogether. Those weighted votes are what are then tallied together and put up on the screen for the public to see. It being a secret ballot, no one will know who cast which vote for whom, but the total votes will be available for the public to see. And then the top 3 of those that receive the highest number of weighted votes will then advance to the second round. There is some possibility that there will be a tie that involves third place, like maybe 2 people that tie for third and fourth, or maybe 3 people that tie for second, third, and fourth, something along those lines, in which case you add in all of the tying applicants. So it is possible to have maybe 4 or even 5 advance to the second round, but at least 3 if there's no tie. Then the third part of 3 parts I was going to talk about then is how do the subsequent rounds of voting occur. So after you've determined those 3 that advance, then of course you'll have your second round of interviews. And the second round of voting will be those 3 or possibly 4 candidates or applicants. Once they've all been interviewed, given their presentations, answered the questions, and you go to vote, your screen will look very similar to how it did the first time. The only difference is instead of having 10 applicants, you'll have 3 or possibly 1 or 2 more to choose from, and you'll still make the same first choice, which will receive 1 weighted vote, and then out of the others you can pick a second choice, which will receive 0.6 of a weighted vote. There's no third choice, obviously, on the second round. Those tallies, again, will appear on the screen, and assuming there's 2 highest vote receivers and no tie, then those 2 will advance to the last round. If there is a tie, then there's rules for how that would be resolved. Then after you've got your final 2 that advance to the last round, there's obviously rules that show how those final interviews will occur for those 2 final applicants. And after those interviews and you do your final voting, then of course you're just casting 1 first choice vote for one of those 2 candidates. And if at any point in time, even during an earlier round or during this last round, if 1 candidate or 1 applicant receives 4 or more first choice votes, then at that point you shift from secret ballot to a formal motion, and one of you could make a motion to appoint that applicant, and then that would be a regular voice roll call vote like you've had earlier in the meeting. that's required by state law to appoint someone. There is the possibility that you might need a final tiebreaker if your voting on the final round ends up being 3-3. And as you've noticed in the rules, there is a final tiebreaker process that you could use. You can make a motion to use that final tiebreaker process, or if it's a tie, you can make a motion to appoint one or the other by name. You could say, I move to appoint candidate A, or you could say, I move to appoint candidate B, or as I said, you can say, I move to use the random by lot method to randomly appoint one of those two. Or the other default option is, in the event of a tie in the final round, is then you would consider those two applicants again at your next meeting. So that's all I had, unless you had any questions for me.
Did a good job, Duncan. Thanks. Okay. Cast a ballot.
Mayor, at this point, you have a first round result. I would ask that either you or a member of the clerk staff read into the record the results that have been returned.
We have Alan Anderson with 3.4, David Pack with 2.6, and Holly Allen with 2.4. Those will be the three that will move to the next round.
That is correct, sir. And at this point, if we could thank those members who have participated. And if you'd like to stick around and watch.
We really do appreciate your willingness to serve, and it's been a hard choice. Any one of you could have served.
And please run. Seriously, there's an election next year.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, we'll move to that second round of questioning and interviewing.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes to explain the greatest needs of the city at this time. We will start See, we don't have it in alphabetical order yet, so.
It's in the regular alphabetical order by last name.
Alan Anderson, then Pat.
Okay. So we'll start with Alan Anderson.
No. Oh.
Oh, okay, there you go. Please do that.
You can both sit here.
So the question, if I recall correctly, is the greatest needs of the city currently. I think that the greatest needs, are they going to start the time? I don't want to, yeah. I just lost track of my thought. I've already noted that the greatest need really is economic development, because that does go into everything else we can do for our police, for our firemen, for our teachers, for education, that it all starts with that economic development. And that's an easy thing to say. We just need economic development. But what we really need is something that I call developmental evaluation. It is something that has been done in the Twin Cities. It is something that has been done across the nation and worked very effectively, and that is getting real-time data on a regular basis so that when we make decisions, we can see immediately that was positive, that was negative. We use that data analytics to make future decisions, to make adjustments. If we don't, we stagnate. If we do not have access to immediate data, what is the effect of our plan, what has happened, what has not happened, then we are stuck and we stagnate. When we have that and we utilize it effectively to set up a plan, and we are constantly monitoring it, the same as a doctor would a patient, when that plan is in place, we are able to make decisions that will cause improvements, and those decisions that do not, we can get rid of them and create new plans, and it's this constant adjustment. To be able to do developmental evaluation, you need a lot of experience. I have that experience. You need a lot of training. It's not enough to say, in my job, I do evaluation. I am actually a PhD trained evaluator. It is what I do. And so that idea of consistent improvement is something that our city needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
The greatest need in the city is twofold, but one ties into the other. And the first one, and to me, the critical need is economic development. Economic development is bringing businesses into the community that can provide high-paying jobs, that pay property taxes, that may provide sales tax depending on the type of business that it is. And those are how you better fund a city operations rather than just always relying on tax and fees of residents. I was able to attend the Global City Initiative that Mayor McAdams had held a couple years ago, and they talked about business expansion, which is pretty much the way the economy is trending right now. And there's an acronym that ties into that. It's called BEAR, B-E-A-R, and that stands for Business Expansion, Attraction, and Retention. Those are really the key issues as we see dark storefronts here and there, of how do we bring these businesses into the city? What are our policies? What are our plans? What are our zoning and the permitting process where we can go and help these cities come in? We were instrumental at the Chamber of Commerce helping West Valley City come up with a fast track where if you could have a request in to the city by a certain time that you could get an inspection that day, or if it was after that time, the next day. You paid a fee for it, but you could have a fast track. What are we doing to help attract these businesses into our city? The second thing that's tied into that is the budget. As I look at each of you up there, you all know money, but I don't see a finance guy. Maybe Councilmember McConaughey, but we have an electrician, we have a businessman, we have a contractor, we have an air traffic controller, and we have a marketing specialist. And I deal with money, and I think that could be beneficial. Thank you.
Well, thank you for this additional opportunity. I feel the greatest needs of the city at this time have already been decided on, and I think sometimes we get off on tangents. We already have a general plan that's still current, it's not outdated. We already have a strategic plan, we already have a vision statement, and I know that I've mentioned a portion of these before, but I think that it bears reiterating because I believe it's so important to keep the eye on the prize, to keep the focus where it should be, so that when we're in our deliberations, we know where the money should be going, where the staff time should be going, because it's a finite amount of resources that we do have. So in the strategic plan, a couple of other points that I haven't mentioned tonight. The citizen directive is, I want to know that the community I leave to my children will be better than the one I found when I came. So I mentioned earlier that we need to reflect on the history of West Jordan so that we know our roots, while also balancing that with proactive planning toward the future. I feel like we've been able to accomplish a lot of good things on the Planning Commission in this area, but we still need to make sure that we're maintaining sufficient fund balances to support contingencies and debt service and plan to fund the capital improvements. A strong sense of community is definitely a major necessity, where we have interfaith cooperation and service projects that the community can collaborate on, similar to what we've seen here across the street with the West Jordan Playground. I want to live in a place that looks and feels like home. That's what residents have said. So we need to have sustainable funding measures in place for the maintenance of parks and trails and open space, and encourage responsible maintenance of private property. That's the age-old issue that we come into, is the right of the property owner versus the right of the surrounding property owners around them. And so these are the major things that have already been decided upon. We need to focus on them. Thank you.
Okay, you will be allowed 1 minute. Shorter answers will be greatly appreciated. And I just, if there's a burning question that the council members have, just click the button and you'll be allowed to ask. 1 question each, if everyone wants to ask a question. So, Councilmember Jacob.
Surprise, surprise, right? My question is not yet fully formed, so this might take a minute to spew forth, because it only applies to 2 of you. That said, I'll try and figure out a way to make it apply to the 3rd one of you as well. And that is, having now applied for this position, a year ago this position was open, and I believe all 3 of you were eligible, yet did not apply for it the hard way, if I may. So the question is, and I guess I'll phrase it this way, why did you or did you not choose to go through the electoral process last year? And what are your plans for next year, as whoever's appointed will have the special election to remain in that seat to fill the remainder of that 2-year term? And then at the end of that, would you want to keep going? And of course, you may not know that until you get up here. Paraphrase, put that out there right now. But basically, yeah, why did you or didn't you run last year, and what's your plans for next year and beyond? Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Jacob. The reason that I chose not to run after I wasn't appointed last time is mainly because Sophie Rice was appointed. I've been able to serve with her on the Planning Commission and on the Design Review Committee, and I found her to be a quality individual, a good friend, and I thought, you know what? Great, let's let her serve. I feel that in government, an incumbent should be given the benefit of the doubt. There's no reason to fire someone from a job if he or she is doing good work. So I decided not to run. I also continue to do the behind-the-scenes work on DRC and Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment. They all fall on Tuesdays, so I just block out Tuesday. No, that's where I am. But I wanted to respect the council's decision at that time that she was best suited for the job. And I felt if I ran, it would be going against your decision to appoint her. Thank you.
I assume this is the order you wanted us to go. Okay. So I too applied for the vacancy when Councilmember Stoker resigned his seat and went through a very similar process to this a year and a half ago. I had chosen to run last year and found it to be very enjoyable, very time consuming, as each of you know. But I was able to walk every single precinct. I wasn't at every house, but every precinct in District 4, and was able to hear from residents that I was able to talk to on what their issues were, the concerns of the city. And we heard a lot of them tonight during the first round of interviews with transportation, with the communication on the council, communication on the city. Met a nice gentleman who always votes the incumbent out. But I made a conscious decision to go through that process because I thought it would be valuable, number one. I was not successful in the outcome of that election. I garnered 1,443 votes and lost by just 90 votes, which I thought was an incredible turnout. So, and then I filed today. Thank you.
Why I did not run. I was working full-time and right smack in the middle of PhD work. Anybody who has done both at the same time will tell you it's insane. I think that running for council at the time would have been unwise, and I believe very much so in never applying for something that I cannot give my full force into. When I do give my full force, it comes at you pretty hard. But I will never, ever look to do something where I will only be able to give a portion of myself to. I think that that's a disservice to the community. Thank you.
Well, then push your button.
I thought we were going down the road.
No, where anyone that wants to ask a question, push your button.
Thanks, Mayor, I appreciate it. So, I've learned this the hard way, but you're going to have to endure this too. When you become an official, now appointed in your case, or elected official in our case, you become a public figure. And a lawyer friend told me you have to have a thick skin to be in politics. And that's what this is. So the question, how thick is your skin? And are you going to be able to endure the scrutiny of the public, of any question of your private life? Thanks, Mayor.
We'll go in reverse order this time.
I'll just answer it with, oh, wait. Totally fine.
Okay, fine.
One. Yeah, it's just one. Fabulous.
Yeah, 1 minute.
I'll just answer it with I coached cheerleading for 8 years. Anyone who's done that knows that you are under the public eye. No, I have been in the public eye for the last 20 years of my life, both involved in politics and involved in the public eye as far as having to present to the board, having to present to a variety of people. And so when I say that I didn't like the way things were run as far as the lack of unity, what I mean is when you conduct yourself as a public figure, what I saw was a lot of Facebook posting, a lot of very public aggression, and I think that that is inappropriate for a public figure. I have a very thick skin, but I have very little patience for backbiting, backstabbing, going to the media, these types of things before things are fully understood and resolved. And I think that that is the one thing that will kind of get my back up a bit, is if that happens. But I do have thick skin. Thank you.
Either way you choose, I'm second.
Not next question.
I've already kind of lived in the public eye, not as much as a city council member, but I did serve as a Kernstown Council rep, the chair of the Kernstown Council when the USANA Amphitheater was being built. I was an elected representative for Kearns Oaker Park Fitness Center, but my biggest public experience was 15 years as the president and CEO of the Salt Lake County Business Alliance, which was the Chamber of Commerce. And I had to write articles for the newspaper. I was interviewed numerous times in the Tribune and the Deseret News. So I've had a little taste, not a city council taste, but I've had a little taste of being in the public eye and being scrutinized for decisions such as when we canceled the West Valley Santa Christmas Parade. And thought we would get some flack, but it worked out really good. Thank you.
How thick is my skin? Well, I've taught tennis, so I try to wear sunscreen, but I think I've gotten some sunspots there, a little thick skin. Actually, I've found that if you let it roll off your back like water off a duck, it's better than internalizing it. You can't please all the people all the time, and you shouldn't, because people need to know what you stand for. The further you stick your neck out to help someone, the more opportunity they have to chop it off. There's always going to be detractors. People will always question your motivation. I figure a third of the people will hate you, a third will love you, and a third just won't care. And if you did the other thing the opposite way, so that the other third liked you, the other third wouldn't. So I think at the end of the day, you just need to be true to your own convictions, representing the people that are your constituents, understanding what they want, and putting forth that idea, regardless of any public clamor or public issues or what they might say about you personally. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. We will now move to the next round of voting.
Thank you, Council. We now have a need to place in the record the results of the second round. If you could read those into the record, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, the voting is Alan Anderson 3.60, David Pack 3.20, Holly Allen 2.80. So Alan Anderson and David Pack will move to the next round. Thank you very much, Holly. What does the council want to do? Do you want to just move to a vote now, or do you have questions? Still one more round to see about. Yes.
Take a break and make sure we're...
Yeah, I move for a short break. Couple minutes. Third. And a second over here? Okay. All in favor? Aye. There's not gonna be. Not unless something strange happens, then I'll turn it to you.
Good job.
We'll go right directly to the vote. Then if it ends up being a tie, then I'll let you explain exactly who's doing what. Yeah, let's go. Set her up. Yeah. I am.
Oh. Uh-oh.
No, Jeff's isn't.
I didn't shut it.
His isn't working.
Your last question was my third question. That was exactly what I was thinking.
We're gonna go to the vote anyway.
One more.
What I did?
It may come down so close.
Just because it was not
Oh,
active.
I have.
So does that issue it on the other two?
Okay.
So is that,
I was worried about this.
Yeah, nobody can question it. It's immediate.
Statistically, without one person. I have figured out that.
Let's go.
What do you get?
Hmm? Yeah. Okay, we will move to the final round of secret ballot. You coming up?
Oh, there it comes.
There you go.
Mayor, I'll read into the record, as a result of that third round ballot, there are 3 votes cast for each candidate. And at this point, you'll have an opportunity to either proceed to go to the tie-breaking process that's set forth in Section 7, in Section 8, or you can take a motion and try to elicit 4 votes that way. Finally, if you cannot reach a decision this evening, you can table the matter to take a final vote in December at the first meeting then.
Councilmember Burton.
Mayor, just in case this happened, I brought a hat for this purpose. However, I would like to move that we appoint Alan Anderson to fill in the MC post for District 1.
4.
District 4, thank you.
Chris, is there something we don't know?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember Haga. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Nichols.
not that I did anything against Alan, but I'm going to vote against the motion purely that I like them both, and I'm happy with either or, and I'm not going to cast one. I like the states cast a vote with a coin toss, because I like both these fine gentlemen.
Councilmember Tony.
I concur with Councilmember Nichols.
Mayor, if I may add, And my selection was not because I have any ill feelings towards either person. I just thought it would be good for us to make that decision, that choice, instead of leaving it up to chance. But I am happy to, by my hat, serve that purpose.
So are you withdrawing your motion? Let's vote.
This is to toss the coin, right?
No, this is
This is for,
Oh, sorry, original motion, okay. Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
No.
Councilmember Jacob.
No.
Councilmember Nichols.
No.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Vote fails 3-3.
Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we use the hat and the two names in the hat and add up and do a flip of the coin to choose who will be filling in for District 4.
Was it a flip of the coin or the hat?
Second.
So I'll let the city attorney describe exactly what will, oh wait, excuse me, we've got to have a vote on this first.
Well, there's a motion.
Do you have a motion? Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember Haga. Discussion of the motion? Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. Are we drawing these out of the hat or flipping a coin? Are we flipping a hat or drawing coins out of a hat? What exactly is going on there?
You draw, there's two names in the hat. They'll draw that out. That, drawing the names out of the hat will choose who is heads or tails, and then the coin will flip to see who that person is.
It's all spelled out in your literature. This is what I wanted to avoid, this kind of nonsense. Would you like to explain exactly how it happens, City Attorney?
Yes, sir. The mayor shall select a hat and two equally sized pieces of paper with each applicant's name on it. The chief of police will then place them into the hat. He will then turn and allow, or once the two names are placed inside the hat, he will remove one at a time. The first name removed will be assigned heads. Second name will be tails. At which point the public works director shall flip a coin in the air and allow it to land on the floor. Without touching the coin, the city clerk shall, along with the applicants, verify that the coin's either tails or heads is declared upward. Whatever that is will be the winner. I'm just I guess I want to make sure that applicants understand that process. If they have any questions, we have. No, you may not.
Motion.
Well, he doesn't know if he's going to be heads or tails, so
We have a
coin
question,
working his...
Councilmember Haga.
Because we're still in motion, to do this procedure. Am I right?
That is correct.
I'd like to
With
make
my
a sub-
understanding, I was to describe that so you can have a better understanding of what you're voting on.
Appreciate it. I'd like to make a substitute motion, just for the sake of professionalism, one more time. I move to appoint Alan Anderson as District 4 Council Representative.
Well, you do have a motion pending that you have not voted on, and Councilman Haga has made us a new motion. So I don't know if you want to conclude the motion to use the tiebreaker first before addressing Councilman Haga's new
I think
motion.
that's the order. We have a motion on the table we have not voted on yet, so we will vote on the first motion first.
Or, of course, the person who made that motion and second could withdraw it. Would be an alternative.
Well, hence why I'm making a substitute. I'm the second, so I'm going to make, then I'll amend the motion. Well, I mean, if we have a motion on the table, why can't we do a substitution?
You certainly can. I didn't hear you say that.
I still need a second, though. So. I've already made the motion.
dies for lack of a second motion, second to the motion. So we are voting now on the original motion to move to the item. Let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Vote passes 6-0.
We don't have our Public Works Director here tonight, so Jim will be acting as the Public Works Director.
Mayor,
Yes.
so now we've gone through this process. Just a question from the attorney. So do we still go into a motion adopting the coin toss?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're not done yet, so, okay.
This is awesome. It's the 12th amendment at work.
So Alan Anderson is heads? And David Pack is tails.
Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we appoint Alan Anderson as the council person for District 4.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Burton and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. I think he beat it just by a second. Discussion to the motion? Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just say thank you to all of those who were willing to step up and submit their names for consideration for this position. Obviously, it was very difficult for the council to come to a conclusion. There are some very, very good people in our city, and very much appreciate everything that those candidates went through. So thank you very much, and please continue to remain involved. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Haga.
To David Peck, it could have went either way. Really, from my perspective, total respect for you, and there's still more seats available next year, so come back.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
I'll allow that.
I too just wanted to thank all the applicants who applied. And you can see the caliber of people that live in West Jordan City, and this is just a small group. And I'm very appreciative to be associated among them. Thank you.
We will take care of the swearing in next council meeting. What's that?
It's on the agenda, to do it tonight, yeah.
I thought we discussed that it was going to happen. Okay, let's do it. Everyone, council, please step down. I told him to. The next item of business is I need a motion to move to closed session for the discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental nature of an individual. Strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation. Strategy session to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right or water share.
So moved, Mayor.
The motion by Councilmember Haga.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion of the motion.
May we please amend the motion to accept adjournment from there?
Yes.
And second that as well.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Vote passes 6-0.
Got one more vote.
Do I take a vote?
I'm so sorry. Councilmember McConnell.
Aye.
No, still one more.
Oh, I apologize. I thought you were, should we just do a do-over? Let's try Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Okay. And Councilmember Reserve, okay. Sorry about that, guys.
There was 5 that I couldn't pick from the. Yeah, I mean, David's stellar, and